Imagine a world perched on the roof of the Americas, where the air is thin and the sky is a shade of blue so deep it feels like you could fall into it. This is the Andean Altiplano, a realm of icy winds that sweep across vast, open plains. A place where every breath is a conscious effort, a reminder that you are closer to the heavens than to the sea. Here, nestled among the colossal peaks, lies a jewel of impossible color, Lake Titicaca. Its waters shimmer under the relentless sun, a mirror reflecting the sacred mountains and the endless sky. This is not just a landscape, it is a sacred space, a cradle of civilization. Long before the golden empire of the Incas rose to dominate South America, another power thrived in this high-altitude world. They were a people of myth and stone, a civilization that appeared as if from the very earth itself, leaving behind mysteries that still baffle us today. This is the story of the Tiwanaku. Who were they? Where did they come from? And what cosmic understanding allowed them to build a monumental city at an altitude of nearly 13,000 feet? Their story is not just one of history, but of humanity's enduring quest to understand its place in the cosmos. It's a tale etched in weathered gateways, carved into monoliths that stare blankly across the centuries, and whispered on the winds that blow across the world's highest navigable lake. To understand the Tiwanaku, we must first understand their world. The Altiplano is a land of stark contrasts. By day, the equatorial sun is fierce, its unfiltered rays warming the high plateau. But as soon as it dips below the horizon, the temperature plummets, and a bone-chilling cold descends. This is a land of extremes, a challenging environment that would have tested the limits of any society. Yet, here, the Tiwanaku didn't just survive. They flourished. They developed sophisticated agricultural techniques, creating vast networks of raised fields, or sucacolus, which used a system of canals to regulate temperature and irrigate crops, turning this harsh landscape into a breadbasket. They learned to cultivate high-altitude crops, like potatoes and quinoa, staples that sustained a large and growing population. This mastery over their environment was the foundation upon which their great society was built. It allowed them to dedicate time and resources to something beyond mere survival, the creation of a spiritual and ceremonial center that would become the heart of their world. At the center of this world was the city of Tiwanaku itself. Not a city in the modern sense, with bustling markets and residential streets, but a monumental ceremonial complex. It was a pilgrimage site, a place where the earthly and divine planes converged. Imagine pilgrims traveling for weeks, crossing the vast plains, the silhouette of the city's pyramids growing larger on the horizon. The site was meticulously planned, aligned with the stars and the cardinal directions. It was a physical map of their cosmology, a place built to channel the energies of the sun, moon, and stars. The main structures we see today, the Akapana Pyramid, the Kalasasaya Temple, and the semi-subterranean temple were part of a grand cosmic theater. Here, rituals were performed, seasons were marked, and the very order of the universe was maintained. Let's walk through the heart of this ancient metropolis. The Kalasasaya is a massive rectangular enclosure, its walls constructed from enormous blocks of red sandstone, and its name in the Amara language means standing stones. And that's exactly what you find. Giant pillars punctuating the walls, meticulously cut and placed. Within this enclosure stands one of the most iconic and enigmatic monuments of the entire continent, the Gateway of the Sun, carved from a single, massive block of andesite. It weighs an estimated 10 tons. At its center is a figure many believe to be the primary deity of the Tiwanaku, often identified as Virashuka, the creator god. He holds 2 staffs, perhaps representing thunderbolts or spears, and from his face, rays ending in puma and condor heads emanate. Surrounding him are 48 winged figures, some with human faces, others with bird heads, all seeming to run or kneel towards the central deity. Is this a calendar? A religious icon? A portal to another world? The gateway is a masterpiece of stone carving, but its true meaning is a code we have yet to fully crack. It stands not as a functional entrance to anywhere, but as a symbolic threshold, a statement of power and belief frozen in stone. Beneath the main platform level, we find the semi-subterranean temple. This sunken courtyard is one of the most hauntingly beautiful places in Tiwanaku. Its walls are studded with hundreds of carved stone heads, each one unique, with different features and expressions. Scholars have debated their meaning for decades. Are they portraits of rulers or ancestors, representations of the different ethnic groups that made up the Tiwanaku Empire? Or are they images of vanquished enemies? Their stone likenesses displayed as trophies, standing in the middle of this sunken space. Surrounded by these silent, watching faces, you feel a powerful connection to the past. You are being observed by the ghosts of a lost civilization, their individual stories forever locked away in their stone gaze. In the center of this temple once stood the largest and most famous of the Tiwanaku monoliths, the Bennett monolith, 24-foot-tall statue of a figure holding a ceremonial cup and a scepter, now housed in a museum to protect it from the elements. The tallest structure at Tiwanaku is the Akapana pyramid, a 7-tiered, man-made mountain. Though heavily eroded and looted over the centuries, its original form was a precise and powerful symbol. It was designed with a complex internal drainage system, which, when filled with water from the summit, would cascade down the pyramid's levels, mimicking the sacred mountains, the apis, that surround the site. For the Tiwanaku Mountains were the source of water, of life itself. By building their own mountain and making it flow with water, they were performing a powerful ritual, ensuring the agricultural fertility upon which their civilization depended. The Akapana was a place of worship, an altar to the life-giving forces of nature, a bridge between the earth and the sky. The influence of Tiwanaku spread far beyond its ceremonial heart. For over 500 years, from around 500 to 1008, its cultural and religious power extended across a vast territory, reaching the Pacific coast of Peru and Chile, and deep into the jungles of Bolivia. This was not an empire held together by armies and forts, in the way of the Romans, or even the later Incas. It was a sphere of influence, a shared ideology, the iconography of the gateway of the sun, the staff god, the winged attendants. The geometric precision appears on textiles, ceramics, and metalwork, found hundreds of miles away. Tiwanaku was the source, the Rome or Mecca of its time in the Andes. It exported not just goods, but a belief system, a way of seeing the world. The distinctive, beautifully crafted pottery, with its abstract puma and condor motifs, became a status symbol throughout the region. This vast network was sustained by llama caravans, the ships of the Andes, which traversed the high-altitude trade routes, connecting the highlands with the coast and the jungle, creating a complex web of economic and cultural exchange. Then, around the year 1000 AD, it all came to an end. The great city of Tiwanaku was abandoned. Its monumental buildings were left unfinished. Its fields fell into disuse, and its influence waned. What happened? The collapse of Tiwanaku is one of the great mysteries of South American archaeology. There are no written records to tell us of a great war or a final, catastrophic event. The evidence points towards a more gradual, insidious cause: climate change. Ice core samples from Andean glaciers show that around this time, a prolonged and severe drought struck the region. The rains failed, the level of Lake Titicaca dropped, and the sophisticated agricultural system of raised fields, so effective in normal times, collapsed. The foundation of Tiwanaku society, its ability to produce a food faced with starvation, the population likely dispersed, abandoning the ceremonial center that had lost its power to guarantee fertility and prosperity. The gods, it seemed, had fallen silent. The stone city was left to the wind and the encroaching grasses of the Altiplano. Though the city was abandoned, its legacy endured. The Tiwanaku were not forgotten. When the Incas rose to power several centuries later, they looked back to Tiwanaku with awe and reverence. For them, Tiwanaku was the place of creation, the site where the creator god Viracocha had brought the sun and moon into being after a great flood. The Inca emperors themselves made pilgrimages to the ruins and to the island of the sun in Lake Titicaca, integrating the older myths into their own imperial narrative to legitimize their rule. They saw the monumental stonework of Tiwanaku, and, while their own masonry style was different, they were clearly inspired by the scale and ambition of their predecessors. The Tiwanaku, even in their ruin, provided the cultural and mythological bedrock for the last great native empire of the Americas. Today, Tiwanaku is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a place of profound silence and deep mystery. Walking among its weathered stones, you can't help but feel a sense of wonder at what this ancient culture achieved. They built a metropolis in one of the world's most challenging environments, engineered a sustainable agricultural system, and created art of stunning complexity and beauty. They mapped the cosmos in stone and built mountains to honor their gods. Yet, we still know so little. We don't know what they called themselves, what language they spoke, or the full meaning of their complex iconography. The story of Tiwanaku is a powerful reminder that history is full of missing chapters, of brilliant civilizations that rose and fell, leaving behind puzzles that continue to fascinate and inspire us. They are a testament to the resilience and creativity of the human spirit, a silent civilization whose whispers can still be heard in the high winds of the Andes. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey to the highlands above the clouds. If you found the story of the mysterious Tiwanaku civilization as fascinating as we do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into the lost worlds of the past. Let us know in the comments what ancient civilization you'd like us to explore next. See you on the next adventure. Welcome back. Last time, we stood in awe before the mysterious ruins of Pumapunku, marveling at its mind-bending stonework. That naturally leads us to the big question. Who were the people behind these incredible feats? Today, in Chapter 2, we're going to meet the builders, the Tiwanaku people. Let's set the scene. Imagine a civilization flourishing high in the Andes Mountains, near the shores of Lake Titicaca. This wasn't just a small settlement. It was the heart of a vast and influential culture. The Tiwanaku civilization reached its peak between roughly 500 and 1000 CE. To put that in perspective, while medieval kingdoms were rising and falling in Europe, the Tiwanaku were building a sophisticated society in South America. Their influence wasn't confined to a single city. Think of it more as a cultural sphere, a network of shared beliefs, trade, and technology that stretched across a huge area. Their reach extended from their capital in modern-day Bolivia, all the way into parts of what is now Peru and northern Chile. This wasn't an empire built purely on military conquest, like the later Inca. Instead, the Tiwanaku spread their influence through trade, religious ideology, and forming colonies in different ecological zones. This allowed them to access a wide variety of resources, from highland potatoes and quinoa to coastal fish and lowland coca leaves. It was a clever strategy for thriving in a challenging environment. At the center of it all was the monumental city of Tiwanaku itself. This wasn't just a place where people lived. It was a ceremonial and administrative hub, a pilgrimage site that drew people from all corners of their world. The city was meticulously planned, with impressive temples, palaces, and public spaces, all aligned with astronomical events. This tells us they were keen observers of the sky, with a deep understanding of cosmology that was woven into the very fabric of their city and their lives. Now, let's talk about what truly sets them apart: their stonework. When we look at structures like Pumapunku or the Kalasasia Temple, we're seeing an unparalleled level of precision. They worked with incredibly hard stones like andesite and diorite, cutting them into complex, interlocking shapes with razor-sharp edges and perfectly flat surfaces. How did they achieve this without modern tools? This question has baffled experts for generations. Some stones have these intricate, repeating patterns and drilled holes that look almost machine-made. It's this mastery of stone that has fueled so much speculation, from advanced ancient techniques to more out there theories. The truth is, their skill was the result of generations of accumulated knowledge, incredible patience, and a deep cultural reverence for stone itself. They likely used a combination of harder stone tools, abrasive sands, and water to slowly grind and polish these massive blocks into their final forms. It was a labor-intensive process that would have required immense organization and a highly skilled class of artisans. Each cut, each angle, had a purpose, fitting together like a giant three-dimensional puzzle without any mortars to hold them in place. The sheer perfection of their work is a testament to their dedication and engineering prowess. So, who were the Tiwanaku people? They were more than just master stonemasons. They were skilled farmers who developed sophisticated agricultural systems like raised fields, or succucalas, to combat the harsh Andean climate of floods and frosts. They were artists who created beautiful pottery and intricate textiles, and they were spiritual people who worshipped deities like the staff god, whose image is famously carved onto the gateway of the sun. This powerful figure, holding staffs in each hand, represented a central force in their cosmos, and was a key symbol of their religious identity. For centuries after their decline around 1000 CE, the magnificent city of Tiwanaku lay partially buried and forgotten by the outside world. While local people always knew of the ruins, it was not until the 19th and 20th centuries that archaeologists began to systematically excavate and study the site. Early explorers were stunned by what they found. They unearthed the massive gateways, the sunken temples, and the enigmatic statues that dotted the landscape. It was like rediscovering a lost world. These early archaeological efforts were crucial, but they also faced challenges. Some early researchers had misguided ideas, and sadly, many of the stones were repurposed over the centuries for other buildings, or even for railway construction. But as scientific methods improved, a clearer picture of the Tiwanaku people began to emerge. Archaeologists uncovered evidence of their vast trade networks, their agricultural innovations, and the complex social structure that made it all possible. The rediscovery of Tiwanaku wasn't just about digging up old stones. It was about piecing together the story of a civilization that had been largely overlooked in the grand narrative of world history. It challenged the notion that advanced societies only existed in the Old World and revealed the incredible achievements of pre-Columbian peoples. Every artifact recovered, from a simple ceramic pot to a monumental gateway, adds another piece to the puzzle, helping us understand the daily lives, beliefs, and worldview of this remarkable culture. Today, the site of Tiwanaku is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a place of immense cultural and historical importance. It continues to be an active area of research, with new discoveries still being made. We're constantly learning more about their language, their social organization, and the reasons for their eventual collapse. The Tiwanaku were a people of vision, precision, and resilience. They transformed a challenging, high-altitude landscape into the cradle of a powerful and influential culture. They left behind a legacy written in stone, a legacy that continues to inspire awe and curiosity. But their story doesn't end here. Every great civilization eventually faces its decline. In our next chapter, we'll investigate one of the biggest mysteries of all. What happened to the Tiwanaku? Why did this seemingly powerful civilization suddenly vanish? Join us next time as we explore the theories behind their collapse. Thanks for watching, and if you're enjoying this journey into the past, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next chapter. Welcome back to our journey through the ancient Andes. Today, we're diving deep into the heart of a civilization, into a place that was much more than just a body of water. We're exploring Lake Titicaca, the sacred sea of the Tiwanaku people. This isn't just a stunning, high-altitude lake. For the ancient cultures of the Andes, this was the very center of the universe, the cradle of creation itself. So, what made this lake so special? Imagine standing on its shores, the vast, deep blue water stretching to the horizon, ringed by snow-capped mountains. The air is thin, the sky is brilliant, and there's a palpable sense of power and stillness. For the Tiwanaku and later the Inca, this was a place where the world was born. It was a liminal space, a gateway between the earthly realm and the divine. Andean mythology tells us that the great creator god Virashaka emerged from the depths of Lake Titicaca. After a great flood that wiped out a race of giants, he rose from the waters to create the sun, the moon, and the stars. He then journeyed to the island of the sun, right in the middle of the lake, where he sculpted the first humans from stone. He breathed life into them and sent them out to populate the four corners of the world. This makes Lake Titicaca the ultimate place of origin, the sacred womb from which all life sprang. It's the Andean equivalent of the Garden of Eden, a place of immense spiritual significance. This creation story wasn't just a myth told around a fire. It was the foundation of Tiwanaku society. The lake was the source of everything. Its waters irrigated the innovative raised field agricultural systems we talked about in our last chapter, providing the food that sustained a growing empire. The reeds growing along its shores were used to build boats, houses, and even floating islands. The lake provided fish, a vital source of protein. In every practical sense, life depended on Lake Titicaca, but its role went far beyond the physical. The lake was the epicenter of ritual life. The island of the sun and the island of the moon became major ceremonial centers. Archaeologists have found incredible offerings submerged in the lake near these islands. Gold and silver figurines of llamas and humans, intricate ceramic vessels, and precious spondylus shells, brought all the way from the Pacific coast. These weren't just random objects tossed into the water. They were sacred gifts, a way of communicating with the divine, of giving back to the source of life. Imagine a priest in elaborate attire, standing on a reed boat, making an offering to Viacuca as the sun sets over the Andes. It's a powerful image. These offerings show the incredible wealth and reach of the Tiwanaku state. The materials came from far and wide, indicating a vast trade network, all centered on this sacred lake. This wasn't just local worship, it was an imperial religion. The spiritual power of the lake helped legitimize the power of the Tiwanaku rulers. They were the guardians of this sacred place, the intermediaries between the people and the gods. Because of its status as the birthplace of humanity, Lake Titicaca became a major pilgrimage destination. People from all over the Andean world would travel for weeks or even months to visit its shores. They came to pay homage, to make offerings, and to be in the presence of the divine. It was a journey of spiritual renewal. Imagine the caravans of pilgrims, carrying offerings and hopes, converging on the lake. They would have seen the magnificent city of Tiwanaku rising nearby, a testament to the power that emanated from these sacred waters. The pilgrimage routes themselves became sacred paths, connecting distant communities to this spiritual heartland. For the Tiwanaku, the city and the lake were inextricably linked. The city was the political and administrative hub, but the lake was the spiritual source. The monumental stone gateways and temples of Tiwanaku were aligned with celestial events and sacred mountains, all reflecting the cosmic order that began at the lake. The puma and condor motifs carved into the stones were powerful spiritual symbols, guardians of this sacred landscape. The city's architecture was designed to channel the spiritual energy of the lake and the surrounding mountains, creating a powerful, sacred capital. Even after the Tiwanaku civilization declined around 1000 AD, the spiritual importance of Lake Titicaca endured. The Inca, who rose to power centuries later, adopted and incorporated these beliefs into their own cosmology. They too saw the lake as their place of origin, claiming their founding ancestors. Manco Capac and Mama Aclo also emerged from its waters. They built their own temples on the island of the sun and continued the tradition of pilgrimage, solidifying the lake's status as the most sacred site in their vast empire. So, when we look at Lake Titicaca, we're not just seeing a beautiful natural wonder. We're looking at the spiritual axis of the Andean world. It was a source of creation, a provider of life, a center for ritual, and a destination for the faithful. It was the place where the divine touched the earth, shaping the beliefs, the culture, and the very destiny of an entire civilization. The power of this sacred sea still resonates today, a testament to its enduring legacy in the heart of the Andes. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of Lake Titicaca. It's a place that truly captures the imagination. In our next chapter, we'll delve into the incredible artistic and technological achievements of the Tiwanaku people, from their stunning ceramics to their masterful stonework. You won't want to miss it. If you're enjoying this series, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next adventure. See you next time. Welcome, bike history buffs. Today, we're journeying high into the Andes Mountains, over 12,000 feet above sea level, to uncover the secrets of a civilization that thrived against all odds. We're talking about Tiwanaku, a city that transformed from a humble village into the heart of a powerful mountain empire. How did they do it? How did they build a bustling metropolis in one of the most challenging environments on Earth? Well, stick around, because the story of Tiwanaku is a masterclass in human ingenuity, strategic control, and spiritual power. Before we dive deep, let's set the scene. Imagine a vast, wind-swept plain near the southern shores of Lake Titicaca in modern-day Bolivia. Around 1500 BC, this was home to a small agricultural settlement. For centuries, life was modest, but then, something incredible began to happen. Starting around 400 AD, Tiwanaku experienced an explosive period of growth. becoming one of the most important centers in the pre-Columbian Americas. So, what was the spark that ignited this incredible transformation? The answer lies right beneath their feet, in the very soil they cultivated. The Andean highlands are not exactly a farmer's paradise. The nights are freezing, the air is thin, and the growing season is short. To survive, let alone thrive, you need a seriously clever agricultural strategy. The people of Tiwanaku developed exactly that. They engineered a brilliant system called raised fields, or waru. Picture this. They dug a series of long, parallel canals and piled the excavated earth in between them, creating elevated planting beds. This wasn't just about making neat garden rows. It was a sophisticated form of climate control. During the day, the water in the canals would absorb the intense high-altitude sunlight, storing its heat. When the temperatures plummeted at night, this stored heat would radiate out from the water, creating a warmer microclimate over the planting beds. This protected their precious crops, like potatoes, quinoa, and oca, from the devastating frosts that could wipe out an entire harvest overnight. But wait, there's more. The canals also served as an irrigation system during the dry season and helped with drainage during the rainy season, preventing waterlogging. The organic matter that grew in the water, like algae, could be scooped out and used as a natural fertilizer, constantly enriching the soil. This agricultural innovation was a game. It allowed the Tiwanaku to produce massive food surpluses, something virtually unheard of at that altitude. A stable and abundant food supply meant the population could grow. It meant that not everyone had to be a farmer. People could specialize in other trades: stonemasons, priests, merchants, soldiers. This surplus was the economic engine that powered the rise of Tiwanaku, allowing them to support a large, non-agricultural population and build the monumental city we see the ruins of today. It was the foundation upon which their empire was built. With a full stomach and a growing population, Tiwanaku was perfectly positioned to expand its influence. And their next strategic move was to control the flow of goods across the Andes. Think of Tiwanaku as the central hub of a massive spoke wheel. Their location near Lake Titicaca was no accident. The lake was a natural highway. But more importantly, Tiwanaku sat at a critical crossroads of ancient trade routes that connected diverse ecological zones. To the east lay the humid, resource-rich Amazon basin. To the west, the dry Pacific coast, and to the south, the vast deserts of what is now Chile and Argentina. Each of these regions produced valuable goods that the others lacked. The coasts provided fish, seashells, and precious guano fertilizer. The jungle offered coca leaves, medicinal plants, and exotic bird feathers. The southern deserts held valuable minerals like copper, obsidian, and semi-precious stones, such as turquoise and lapis lazuli. The Tiwanaku didn't just participate in this trade, they dominated it. They established colonies and outposts in these distant regions, not necessarily through military conquest, but through strategic alliances and economic control. They organized large-scale llama caravans, the 18-wheelers of the ancient Andes, to transport goods back and forth. These caravans, sometimes numbering in the hundreds, created a constant flow of wealth and resources into the capital city. This control of trade did two things. First, it made Tiwanaku incredibly wealthy and gave them access to a wide variety of luxury goods, which enhanced the prestige of the ruling elite. Second, it made other communities dependent on them. If a coastal village wanted coca leaves from the jungle, or a jungle community wanted salt from the highlands, they had to go through Tiwanaku. This economic leverage was a powerful tool for extending their political influence far beyond their agricultural heartland. They became the indispensable middlemen of the Andean world. But food and trade alone don't build an empire that lasts for centuries. You need a unifying ideology, something that binds people together and legitimizes the power of the rulers. For Tiwanaku, this was religion. The city wasn't just a political and economic capital, it was the most important ceremonial and religious center in the southern Andes. Pilgrims would travel hundreds of miles to visit its sacred precincts and participate in its rituals. At the heart of the city stood a collection of awe-inspiring structures, the Akapana pyramid, a massive, terraced platform, likely represented a sacred mountain. The Kalisasaya, a large, open-air temple, was meticulously aligned with the stars, for astronomical observations. And we seen it, the famous Gateway of the Sun, carved from a single block of andesite, features a mysterious central figure often called the Staff God. This deity, holding a staff in each hand with rays emanating from its head, became a central icon of Tiwanaku religion. Images of the Staff God and other related deities, like puma-headed and condor-headed figures, have been found on textiles, pottery, and metalwork. Throughout the regions under Tiwanaku influence, this shared religious iconography was like a brand identity for the empire. By adopting Tiwanaku's religious symbols, distant communities were signaling their allegiance and their participation in a larger cultural and spiritual world. The elites at Tiwanaku acted as the intermediaries between the human world and the divine. They hosted massive feasts and ceremonies, likely involving hallucinogenic substances to enhance the spiritual experience. By controlling these powerful rituals, they cemented their authority. They weren't just kings or governors. They were high priests, the gatekeepers to the gods. This religious prestige was the glue that held the diverse peoples of the empire together, giving them a shared identity and a reason to look to Tiwanaku for leadership. So, let's put it all together. How did a small mountain village become a sprawling imperial capital? It was a powerful combination of three key factors. First, they mastered their environment with brilliant agricultural technology that provided a stable food surplus, allowing their population to grow and specialize. Second, they used their strategic location to dominate regional trade networks, accumulating immense wealth and creating economic dependency among their neighbors. And third, they built a powerful religious ideology centered on their magnificent ceremonial city that united diverse peoples under a common spiritual banner and legitimized the rule of their elite. Innovation, commerce, and faith. These were the pillars that supported the rise of the Tiwanaku Empire. For over 500 years, this mountain empire flourished, its influence stretching across a vast and challenging landscape. Its collapse around 1000 AD is another story for another day, but its legacy endured, influencing later civilizations, including the mighty Inca. The story of Tiwanaku is a powerful reminder that with ingenuity and a clear vision, humans can achieve the extraordinary, even in the most unlikely of places. Thanks for joining us on this journey to the roof of the world. If you enjoyed learning about the rise of Tiwanaku, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into ancient history. Let us know in the comments which civilization you'd like to see us cover next. Until then, stay curious. Welcome back to our series, where we're peeling back the layers of a civilization that continues to defy explanation. Today, we're stepping into Chapter 5, and it's a heavy one. Literally, we're talking about their megaliths, the colossal stones that form the very bones of their most sacred and mysterious structures. Prepare to have your mind blown. We're not talking about simple building blocks here. The stones we're examining weigh anywhere from 20 to a staggering 100 tons. To put that into perspective, a single 100-ton block is equivalent to the weight of about 15 adult elephants. Imagine trying to move just one, let alone hundreds, with the technology available thousands of years ago. It's a puzzle that has stumped engineers and archaeologists for decades. These aren't just any old rocks either. The builders were incredibly selective about their materials, choosing specific types of stone for their unique properties. We find three primary types: basalt, sandstone, and andesite. Basalt, a hard, dense, volcanic rock, was often used for foundations and structural elements. It's incredibly durable, which is why so many of these structures are still standing today. The sheer effort required to quarry and shape basalt without modern tools is almost unimaginable. Then there's sandstone. While softer than basalt, it was easier to carve, making it ideal for decorative elements, intricate reliefs, and inscriptions. The detailed stories and symbols etched into these sandstone blocks give us our most direct link to their culture and beliefs. But even sandstone, when we're talking about multi-ton blocks, is a formidable material to work with. Finally, we have andesite, another volcanic rock that sits somewhere between basalt and sandstone. In terms of hardness, it's tough, but can be worked into incredibly precise shapes. What's truly astounding is the level of precision they achieved. We've found andesite blocks fitted together so perfectly that you can't even slide a piece of paper between them. This is the kind of tight tolerance that modern builders struggle to achieve, even with laser-guided equipment. And these ancient masons did it with stones weighing more than a semi-truck. This brings us to the core mystery that leaves researchers utterly amazed. The engineering. How did they do it? The prevailing theories involve massive amounts of human labor, using ramps, rollers, and levers. But when you start to do the math, the scale of the operation becomes almost unbelievable. Let's consider the quarrying process first. The quarries for some of these stones have been located, sometimes hundreds of miles away from the construction sites. Think about that for a moment. They not only had to cut a 100-ton block of solid rock from a mountain, but they also had to transport it across vast distances, over difficult terrain that included hills, rivers, and valleys. Some researchers proposed they used wooden rollers and sledges, pulled by hundreds, if not thousands, of workers. They would have needed to build massive roadways just for transport. Others suggest they might have used waterways, floating the giant stones on enormous rafts. But this would require sophisticated canal systems and a deep understanding of buoyancy and logistics that seems far beyond what we assume for this period. Even if we solve the transportation riddle, we then face the challenge of lifting. How do you lift a 100-ton block, dozens of feet into the air, and place it with millimeter accuracy? The ramp theory is popular, suggesting they built enormous earthen ramps to slide the stones into place, but to reach the upper levels of these structures. The ramps themselves would have been monumental construction projects, possibly containing more material than the final building. And after the structure was complete, where did all that earth from the ramps go? There's often no trace of them. This is why the engineering of this period is so astounding. It represents a level of planning, organization, and mathematical knowledge that seems completely out of place for its time. It required a deep understanding of physics, geometry, and material science. They knew exactly how much stress each stone could bear, the precise angles needed for a stable structure, and the best way to fit irregular shapes together to create a seamless, earthquake-resistant whole. Some of the most fascinating examples are the polygonal walls, where stones of all different shapes and sizes are fitted together like a giant jigsaw puzzle. This technique is incredibly resistant to seismic activity, which is common in many of the regions where these structures are found. It shows a deliberate and brilliant engineering choice. They weren't just stacking blocks. They were creating interlocking systems of immense strength and durability. The tools they used are another part of the puzzle. Archaeologists have found harder stone tools and some evidence of bronze chisels. But could these simple implements really be responsible for quarrying and shaping tons of basalt and andesite with such precision? Some experiments have shown it's possible, but it would have required an incredible amount of time and effort, wearing down countless tools and workers in the process. The sheer scale makes it hard to accept this as the complete picture. This is why the megaliths remain one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. They are a testament to human ingenuity, but they also push the boundaries of what we thought was possible. They stand as silent, colossal witnesses to a lost age of giants of engineering, if not in stature. Every single block tells a story of incredible ambition and skill. They force us to reconsider the capabilities of our ancestors and to ask what knowledge or techniques they possessed that we have since forgotten. As we stand in the shadow of these megaliths, we're not just looking at old stones. We're looking at a profound statement of power, permanence, and cosmic understanding. The effort was monumental, the results eternal. The mystery of how they accomplished it is a puzzle that continues to captivate and inspire us. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mystery of the megaliths. The questions they raise are profound. What do you think? How did they manage these incredible feats of engineering? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter. We have so much more to explore. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to our journey through the wonders of the ancient world. In this chapter, we're stepping into the heart of a civilization that once thrived high in the Andes. The magnificent city of Tiwanaku. Imagine walking these same paths over 1,500 years ago, surrounded by the grandeur of a metropolis unlike any other. This wasn't a city built for war or conquest. It was a sacred center, a ceremonial hub designed to connect humanity with the cosmos. As we begin our tour, let's get our bearings. The core of Tiwanaku was a meticulously planned ceremonial precinct. Think of it as the city's spiritual and political heart. a vast complex of temples, palaces, and monumental gateways, all aligned with astronomical precision. Surrounding this sacred core were the residential areas, where the artisans, farmers, and elites lived their daily lives, all contributing to the city's vibrant pulse. Let's start with the streets. The thoroughfares of Tiwanaku were more than just pathways. They were part of a grand design. They were wide and straight, often paved with stone, guiding processions and pilgrims toward the central temples. Picture these avenues bustling with people from all corners of the empire, dressed in brightly colored textiles, carrying offerings, their voices echoing in the crisp mountain air. These streets were the arteries of the city, channeling the flow of life and faith toward its sacred heart. They weren't chaotic, winding lanes, but deliberate, ordered routes, reflecting the structured worldview of the Tiwanaku people. One of the most remarkable features of Tiwanaku's urban planning is its sophisticated water management system. A complex network of underground and surface channels crisscrossed the city. These weren't just for drainage or irrigation. They had a profound symbolic meaning. Water was life. These channels represented the sacred rivers and lakes of the Andean landscape, bringing the essence of the natural world into the urban environment. Some scholars believe these channels were used in rituals, with water flowing through the ceremonial plazas, cleansing the space and symbolizing the cosmic order. It was a city that lived and breathed with water, a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of its builders. Now, let's turn our attention to the plazas. These were not just empty spaces. They were the grand stages for public life and ceremony. The main plazas were vast, sunken courtyards, open to the sky, allowing thousands of people to gather. Here, communal feasts would be held, astronomical events would be observed, and religious rites would be performed. Imagine standing in one of these sunken plazas, surrounded by high walls that block out the mundane world, your gaze drawn upward to the sky and the towering temples around you. It was an immersive experience, designed to make you feel both part of a community and connected to the divine. From the plazas, our eyes are naturally drawn to the temples, the spiritual anchors of the city. The most iconic of these is the Akapana pyramid. Though now eroded by time, it was once a terraced pyramid, possibly 7 levels high, faced with finely cut stone. It was a man-made mountain, a sacred waka that mirrored the holy peaks of the Andes surrounding the city. A complex system of internal water channels ran through the Akapana, emerging from the top and cascading down its sides, simulating a mountain spring. This was a place of powerful rituals, connecting the earthly realm with the celestial one above and the underworld below. Adjacent to the Akapana is the Kalasaya, a massive rectangular enclosure that served as a celestial observatory. Its name means standing stones, referring to the large vertical pillars that define its perimeter. The walls of the Kalasaya are aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, allowing the priests to track the sun's journey and manage the agricultural calendar. At its center stands the famous Ponce monolith, and nearby is the iconic Gateway of the Sun. This was a temple dedicated to time, to the cycles of the sun and stars, and to the order of the universe. Within the Kalasaya complex, we find the semi-subterranean temple. As its name suggests, it's a sunken courtyard, its walls adorned with hundreds of unique stone heads, each carved with distinct features. It's a mystery who these heads represent, perhaps ancestors, conquered leaders, or a diverse pantheon of deities. Standing in this temple, surrounded by these silent, stone faces, you feel a powerful sense of history, of a multitude of lives and stories converging in this sacred space. Another key structure is the Pumapunku, located a short distance from the main ceremonial center. Pumapunku is famous for its massive, intricately carved stone blocks, cut with such precision that it is hard to imagine how it was achieved with the tools of the time. The H-shaped blocks, the perfectly smooth surfaces, and the interlocking joints are a marvel of engineering. Pumapunku was likely a temple complex, but its exact function remains debated. What is clear is that it represents the absolute pinnacle of Tiwanaku stone masonry, a testament to their mastery over their material. Surrounding this ceremonial core were the residential areas. These were not just haphazard settlements, but organized neighborhoods. Excavations have revealed houses built of adobe bricks, with foundations of stone. They were often arranged in compounds, with several families living around a shared patio. These were the homes of the artisans who created the city's stunning pottery and textiles. The farmers who cultivated the surrounding fields using advanced agricultural techniques like raised fields, and the elite who administered the city's affairs. Life here was deeply intertwined with the ceremonial activities at the city's center. What we see in Tiwanaku is a city that was a living embodiment of its cosmology. The layout wasn't driven by military defensibility or simple commercial convenience. It was a map of their universe, carved in stone on the high Andean plateau. The alignment of its temples with the stars, the symbolic use of water, and the creation of artificial mountains all point to a society deeply concerned with maintaining balance and harmony with the natural and supernatural worlds. It was a place for pilgrimage, for ceremony, for reaffirming the cosmic order. The city itself was the ultimate ritual. As we conclude our overview, take a moment to absorb the scale and the vision of Tiwanaku. This wasn't just a collection of buildings. It was a masterfully orchestrated environment designed to inspire awe and reinforce a shared worldview. It tells a story of a people who, without the wheel or written script as we know it, built a ceremonial metropolis that would influence Andean cultures for centuries to come. The stones of Tiwanaku still hold their secrets, but by walking its streets and plazas, we get a glimpse into the soul of this remarkable civilization. Thank you for joining me on this tour of Tiwanaku's urban landscape. In our next chapter, we will delve deeper into the iconic art and symbolism that define this culture. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss it. Welcome back to our journey through the mysteries of the ancient world. Today, we're venturing deep into the Andes, to the enigmatic ruins of Tiwanaku in modern-day Bolivia. Here, rising from the high-altitude plateau, stands one of the most puzzling structures ever conceived by ancient hands, the Akapana pyramid. Now, when you first look at the Akapana, you might not even realize it's a pyramid. It looks more like a large, eroded hill. But don't let its current state fool you. This was once a magnificent, 7-tiered, stepped platform, precisely engineered and clad in finely cut stone. It dominated the ceremonial center of Tiwanaku, a civilization that flourished long before the Inca Empire. The Akapana is massive. Its base covers an area larger than 6 football fields, and it originally stood over 18 meters, or nearly 60 feet, tall. But what makes it truly extraordinary isn't just its size, it's the sophisticated technology hidden within its core. This wasn't just a monument to be looked at, it was a machine, a dynamic piece of ceremonial architecture designed to interact with the forces of nature. The key to understanding the Akapana lies in water. The Andes are known for their dramatic weather cycles, with a dry season and a rainy season. The builders of Tiwanaku harnessed this cycle in a truly ingenious way. They constructed an incredibly complex, internal drainage system within the pyramid. A massive stone-lined channel runs from a sunken courtyard at the very top, down through the 7 levels, branching out into a network of smaller conduits. Imagine the rainy season. Water would collect in the sunken courtyard on the summit. As it filled, it would cascade into this central channel. The system was designed so that the water would roar and thunder through the pyramid's interior, emerging from stone outlets carved into the shape of puma heads on the lower terraces. It would have been a spectacular sight and sound, transforming this stone mountain into a living, breathing entity. The pyramid would literally roar with the power of the storm. But why go to all this trouble? The answer lies in ancient Andean cosmology. Water was life. It was the sacred gift of the mountain gods, the Apis, who controlled the weather. For the people of Tiwanaku, the Akapana was a man-made sacred mountain. By channeling water through it, they weren't just managing drainage. They were performing a powerful ritual. They were replicating the natural water cycle, bringing the life-giving power of the mountain gods directly into the heart of their city. This brings us to the symbolism of lightning. In the Andes, lightning often precedes a life-giving rainstorm. It's a symbol of divine power and fertility. The zigzag patterns of the water channels and the thunderous sound they produced within the Akapana are believed to be direct representations of lightning and thunder. The pyramid itself became a vessel for the storm god, known as Tunup. During a ceremony, the priest or shaman at the summit could, in a sense, command the storm. By releasing the collected water, they would unleash a man-made thunderclap, a powerful act of sympathetic magic meant to call down the real rains and ensure a good harvest for their people. So, the Akapana was a temple, an observatory, and a hydraulic machine, all in one. The sunken courtyard at the top was perfectly aligned with the cardinal directions and key astronomical events, reinforcing its role as a nexus between the earthly and celestial realms. It was here that the most important ceremonies took place. Imagine the scene. Priests in elaborate regalia, chanting to the heavens, as water thunders through the stone heart of the pyramid below them, echoing the power of the sky gods. Excavations have revealed that the pyramid was used for more than just water rituals. Offerings, including precious metals, intricate ceramics, and even human remains, have been found buried within its layers. These were offerings to the mountain, to the earth, and to the ancestors, feeding the spiritual energy of this sacred place. Each layer of the pyramid represented a different level of the cosmos, and by making offerings at different levels, the people of Tiwanaku were maintaining balance and harmony in their world. The precision of the stonework is another marvel. The blocks, some weighing many tons, are fitted together with such accuracy that you can't slip a knife blade between them, and this was achieved without mortars. It speaks to a level of engineering and a deep understanding of geometry that is simply astounding for its time. Sadly, after the Tiwanaku civilization collapsed around 1000 AD, the Akapana fell into ruin. For centuries, it was plundered for its beautiful cut stones, which were used to build nearby churches and colonial buildings. What we see today is a shadow of its former glory, a ghost of a sacred mountain. But even in its ruined state, the Akapana has not given up all its secrets. Archaeologists continue to use ground-penetrating radar and other technologies to map the intricate network of channels that still lie buried within. Each discovery gives us a clearer picture of the incredible vision of its creators. The Akapana pyramid is a testament to the ingenuity and deep spiritual connection of the Tiwanaku people. It shows us that ancient monuments were often much more than static structures. They were dynamic, interactive stages for ritual, designed to channel the very forces of nature and bring the cosmos down to earth. It challenges our modern perceptions of what ancient technology could achieve and reminds us that there are still so many wonders hidden in the past, waiting to be understood. The roaring water mountain of Tiwanaku stands as a profound symbol of a civilization that sought not to conquer nature, but to live in harmony with it. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the Akapana. If you found this fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you won't miss our next deep dive into the ancient world. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the mysteries of Tiwanaku. Today, we're stepping into one of its most awe-inspiring structures, the Kalasaya Temple. Get ready, because this isn't just a pile of ancient stones. It's a cosmic clock, a celestial observatory, and a testament to an astronomical knowledge that is simply staggering. The name Kalasasya means standing stones, and as you approach, you understand why. This massive rectangular enclosure, roughly 130 meters by 120 meters, is defined by towering red sandstone pillars interspersed with smaller blocks of andesite. Imagine walking along its perimeter. The sheer scale is designed to make you feel small, to impress upon you the power and permanence of the cosmos and the civilization that understood it. The walls aren't just for show. They create a sacred, protected space, separating the celestial order within from the chaos of the outside world. As you enter the complex through a monumental 7-step staircase on the eastern side, you are immediately struck by its precision. Everything feels intentional, perfectly placed. The main courtyard is vast and open to the sky, a grand stage for the celestial drama that unfolds above. At the heart of this complex, you would have found monoliths, great stone figures like the Ponce monolith and the Alfrael monolith, standing like silent guardians or priests, forever watching the heavens. These aren't just statues. They are focal points, connecting the earth below with the sky above. The real genius of the Kalasasaya, however, lies in its alignment. This temple is a masterpiece of The architects of Tiwanaku weren't just building a place of worship. They were building a functional calendar carved in stone. The entire structure is oriented to track the sun's journey throughout the year. Let's stand at a specific observation point inside the temple. On the day of the spring and autumn equinoxes, when day and night are of equal length, the rising sun appears perfectly framed in the center of the main eastern gateway. It's an incredible moment of balance, a celestial event captured and marked by human hands over 1,000 years ago. This told the people of Tiwanaku that the seasons were changing, signaling times for planting and harvesting. But it gets even more precise. As the year progresses, the sun's rising position shifts along the horizon. On the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the sun rises over a pillar at the northeast corner of the temple. And on the winter solstice, the shortest day, it rises over a pillar at the southeast corner. The standing stones along the eastern wall weren't placed randomly. They were markers, a giant architectural solar calendar. By observing where the sun rose in relation to these pillars, the priests and astronomers of Tiwanaku could pinpoint the exact day of the year. Think about the level of planning and observation required. This wasn't guesswork. It involved generations of watching the sky, recording data, and then translating that astronomical knowledge into a monumental engineering project. They had to understand the sun's path, the solstices, the equinoxes, and then align massive, multi-ton stones with incredible accuracy to capture these moments. This celestial connection transformed the Kalasasaya from a simple temple into a living, breathing instrument. It was a place where time was measured, where the cycles of the cosmos were made visible and understandable. The rituals and ceremonies performed here would have been synchronized with these celestial events. A solstice ceremony wasn't just a celebration. It was a participation in the cosmic order, a reaffirmation of the connection between the people, their gods, and the universe. The western wall of the Kalasasaya also holds secrets. Some researchers believe it was used to track the setting sun and possibly even the movements of the moon or Venus. The entire temple was a dynamic space where the architecture itself interacted with the light and shadow of the sky. Imagine being a resident of Tiwanaku, seeing the shafts of light on a solstice morning perfectly illuminating a sacred monolith. It would be a powerful, divine massage, a confirmation that you were living in harmony with the universe. The Kalasasaya temple shows us that the Tiwanaku people were not just master builders. They were master astronomers. They saw the sky not as a random collection of lights, but as a source of order, a divine clockwork that governed their lives. They built their most sacred spaces to reflect this order, to literally build a bridge between their world and the cosmos. As we stand here today, amidst these ancient, weathered stones, we are standing inside a work of scientific and spiritual genius. The Kalasasaya is more than a ruin. It is a message from the past, written in the language of stone and light. It reminds us that for ancient cultures, there was no separation between science, religion, and daily life. It was all one unified quest to understand their place in the universe. Join me next time as we explore another incredible feature within the Tiwanaku complex, the mysterious semi-subterranean temple and its haunting wall of faces. What secrets do they hold? We're about to find out. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more adventures into the ancient world. Welcome, bike history explorers. Today, we're journeying to the high plains of Bolivia, to the ancient ruins of Tiwanaku, to stand before one of the most enigmatic and magnificent stone carvings in the world, the Puerta del Sol, or the Sun Gate. This isn't just any gateway. It is a testament to the incredible skill and profound cosmology of a civilization that thrived over 1,000 years ago. Imagine this. A massive 10-foot tall, 13-foot wide gateway, weighing an estimated 10 tons. But here's the truly mind-boggling part. It's not built from blocks. The entire structure, with all its intricate carvings, was hewn from a single, colossal block of andesite stone. The precision and artistry involved are just staggering, especially when you consider the tools they had at their disposal. How did they move it? How did they carve it with such detail? These questions still leave archaeologists in awe. Today, the gate stands with a large crack, a scar from its long history, possibly from an earthquake or even from being struck by lightning. It wasn't always standing here in its current location either. It was found lying horizontally, suggesting it was moved from its original, perhaps more prominent, position within the great temple complex of Calasias. Its journey through time is as mysterious as its creation. Now, let's look closer at the carvings, because this is where the story truly unfolds. Dominating the center, right above the doorway, is the most prominent figure. This is often identified as the staff god, a principal deity in Andean cultures. Look at the rays exploding from his head, like the sun's corona. In each hand, he holds a staff, which might represent lightning bolts, stalks of maize, or symbols of authority. His face is stoic, powerful, and it looks directly out at you. A divine ruler or creator deity. Gazing across his domain, some scholars see a connection to Tiahuanaco, the great creator god of the Incas, suggesting a continuity of belief that spanned centuries and empires. Flanking the staff god are 48 smaller figures, arranged in 3 neat rows on either side. These aren't just decorative. The figures in the top and bottom rows have human faces but wings, earning them the nickname winged chaski, or messengers. They're all running, their faces turned toward the central god, as if in reverence or in motion to carry out his will. The middle row is different. These figures have the heads of condors, majestic birds sacred in the Andes. This collection of attendants, both human-like and Zuma, creates a dynamic procession, a celestial court frozen in stone. So, what does it all mean? This is where the debate gets really exciting. One of the most popular theories is that the Sun Gate is a complex astronomical calendar. The number of figures, their positions, and the various symbols have been interpreted as representing days, months, and solar cycles. Some researchers, like Arthur Pasnansky, dedicated their lives to decoding it. He believed the gate was a solar calendar, marking the solstices and equinoxes with incredible precision. He argued that the 48 figures, when combined with other elements, could represent a solar year. Think about it. For an agricultural society like Tiwanaku, living at 13,000 feet, understanding the seasons wasn't just a matter of convenience. It was a matter of survival. Knowing precisely when to plant and when to harvest would have been critical. The Sun Gate could have been a monumental stone tool, a public display of the sacred calendar that governed their lives. On specific days of the year, the sun's rays would align perfectly with certain carvings, marking key moments in the agricultural and ceremonial cycle. It was a fusion of science, religion, and daily life. But the calendar theory is just one piece of the puzzle. Other interpretations suggest the frieze is a mythological narrative, telling the story of creation or a key event in Tiwanaku's history. Could the staff god be depicting the moment he brought order to the cosmos, with his celestial attendants arrayed around him? The gate, then, wouldn't just be a clock, but a Bible in stone, a sacred text for all to see. And then there are the more alternative ideas. Some have proposed connections to lost continents, ancient astronauts, or advanced technologies we can't comprehend. While these theories capture the imagination, most archaeologists focus on the rich cultural context of the Andes, the symbols on the gate, these staffs, the condor heads, the rayed visage of the Godar, found in other Andean cultures, from the Paracas to the Wari, and later, the Inca. This suggests the Sun Gate isn't an isolated anomaly, but the grandest expression of a shared spiritual and symbolic language that once united this vast, mountainous region. What's truly incredible is that after all this time, the Sun Gate retains its power to inspire wonder. It's a portal, not just in a physical sense, but a portal into the mind of the Tiwanaku people. It challenges us to think about how ancient civilizations saw their world, how they merged the spiritual with the scientific, and how they expressed their deepest beliefs in enduring stone. Standing here in the quiet of the Altiplano, you can almost feel the weight of centuries. The Puerto del Sol is more than a relic. It's a message from the past, written in a language we are still learning to read. It reminds us that there are still so many mysteries waiting to be uncovered in the story of humanity. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the mysteries of the Sun Gate. What do you think it represents? A calendar, a myth, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the ancient world. Until next time, keep exploring, Welcome back, history lovers, to our ongoing exploration of the ancient wonders of the world. Today, we descend into one of the most enigmatic and spiritually charged locations we've had encountered yet. The semi-subterranean temple. As we step down into this sunken courtyard, you can immediately feel a shift in the atmosphere. It's quieter here, shielded from the wind, a space that feels intentionally set apart from the everyday world. The first thing that grabs your attention are the walls. They aren't stone. They're a gallery of faces staring out from the past. Embedded within the masonry are dozens of stone heads, each one unique, each one carved with a distinct character. Look closely. Some have wide, staring eyes. Others have mouths set in a firm line. Some appear serene, others almost stern. Who were these individuals? Were they revered kings, powerful priests, or venerated ancestors? The truth is, we don't know for sure, but their silent watch over this sacred space is undeniably powerful. This unique architectural choice has fascinated archaeologists for decades. One prevailing theory is that this temple was a focal point for ancestor veneration. Imagine this courtyard bustling with people, perhaps during a special ceremony. Each stone head could represent a different lineage, a different clan, or a specific named ancestor whose spirit was being honored. In many ancient cultures, ancestors weren't just remembered, they were considered active participants in the lives of the living, offering guidance, protection, and wisdom. This temple could have been the physical bridge between the world of the living and the realm of the spirits. Let's think about the symbolism of this place. The fact that it's sunken, set below ground level, is incredibly significant. Descending into the earth often symbolizes a journey into the underworld, the womb of Mother Earth, or the realm of primordial creation. It's a return to the source. By conducting rituals here, the ancient people might have been seeking to connect with the very foundations of their cosmology, drawing power and legitimacy from the earth itself. The stone heads, then, would be the mediators, the ancestral guardians of this sacred portal. Notice the precision of the stonework. Even after centuries Tiahuanaco exposure to the elements, the craftsmanship is evident. The walls are made of carefully fitted red sandstone blocks, creating a stark, beautiful contrast with the carved heads, which are mostly made of a lighter limestone or andesite. This deliberate choice of materials suggests a sophisticated understanding of both engineering and aesthetics. It wasn't just about building a structure. It was about creating a specific visual and spiritual experience. So, what kind of rituals might have happened here? The courtyard is open to the sky, suggesting that astronomical events could have played a role. Perhaps ceremonies were timed to coincide with the solstices, the equinoxes, or the rising of a particular star. We can picture priests chanting, offerings of food or precious liquids being poured onto a central altar, and the air thick with the smoke of incense. The community would gather on the terraces above, looking down into this sacred arena, participating in a collective act of remembrance and worship. The acoustics in a space like this are often remarkable. The chants and prayers would have echoed off the stone walls, amplified and seeming to come from the very earth. It's also possible that this temple was a place of initiation. Perhaps young leaders or new priests would descend into this space to commune with the ancestors, seeking their blessing before taking on their new roles. Being surrounded by the stoic faces of the past would be a humbling and awe-inspiring experience, a powerful reminder of the lineage and tradition they were inheriting. It was a physical manifestation of the weight of history and the responsibility to carry it forward. Another intriguing aspect is the water drainage system. Archaeologists have found complex channels built into the temple, suggesting that managing water was a key concern. Was this purely practical, to prevent the courtyard from flooding during the rainy season? Or did water itself play a ritualistic role? Water is a universal symbol of purification, life, and transition. Perhaps the courtyard was intentionally flooded at certain times, transforming it into a sacred pool, a mirror reflecting the heavens where purification rites were performed. The interplay of earth, water, and sky would have created an incredibly potent ceremonial environment. As we walk the perimeter, you can't help but try to connect with the faces in the wall. You find yourself wondering about their stories. What did this person see in their lifetime? What wisdom did they pass down? It's a deeply human reaction. These aren't just abstract carvings. They feel like portraits. The artists who carved them managed to imbue them with a sense of life, a spark of individuality that transcends the millennia. This is why places like the semi-subterranean temple are so important. They remind us that the people of the past were not so different from us. They loved, they grieved, they worshipped, and they sought to leave a legacy. The temple didn't exist in isolation. It was part of a larger ceremonial complex. From here, grand stairways would have led up to other temples and pyramids, creating a sacred path that a pilgrim or priest would walk. This sunken courtyard was the starting point, the foundation upon which everything else was built, both literally and metaphorically. It was the heart of the complex, a place of deep, foundational power. Over the centuries, this site was eventually abandoned and slowly buried by layers of earth, which ironically helped to preserve it. When it was rediscovered and excavated, it was like opening a time capsule. It gave us an unprecedented window into the ritual life and belief system of a civilization that had long since vanished. The stone heads were still in their original positions, waiting to tell their stories once again. As we prepare to ascend back to ground level, take one last look around. Feel the power of this place. The semi-subterranean temple is more than just an archaeological site. It's a testament to the enduring human need to connect with our roots, to honor those who came before us, and to find our place in the grand sweep of the cosmos. It's a conversation carved in stone, and even after all this time, we can still hear its whispers. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of the semi-subterranean temple. It has places like this that truly ignite the imagination and remind us of the incredible depth and complexity of human history. If you enjoyed this exploration, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more adventures into the ancient world. Let me know in the comments which of the stone heads you found most compelling. Until next time, keep exploring. Welcome back to our journey into the world's greatest mysteries. Today, we venture high into the Bolivian Andes, to a site that defies explanation and challenges our understanding of ancient history. Part of the larger Tiwanaku archaeological site, which means the door of the Puma, is a sprawling complex of ruins that leaves even the most seasoned experts scratching their heads. At first glance, it looks like a chaotic jumble of massive stone blocks, scattered across the high-altitude plain, as if by a giant's hand. But look closer, and the chaos gives way to an undeniable, almost unsettling, sense of order and precision. These aren't just any rocks. They are masterfully crafted monoliths of andesite and red sandstone, some weighing over 100 tons. How were these colossal stones quarried, transported miles from their source, and then lifted and placed with such accuracy, all at an altitude of nearly 13,000 feet, where the air is thin and resources are scarce? The conventional timeline places the construction of Pumapunku by the Tiwanaku culture around 500 to 600 AD. Archaeologists suggest that a massive labor force, using simple tools like stone hammers, ropes made from llama hide, and ramps, managed this incredible feat over centuries. They theorize that the stones were moved using a combination of sheer manpower and ingenious engineering, slowly but surely shaping the landscape. This is the story you'll find in most textbooks, a testament to the power of human ingenuity and collective effort. But is it the whole story? When you examine the stones up close, questions begin to multiply. Let's talk about the most famous and enigmatic features of Pumapunku. These are andesite stones, all uniformly shaped into a distinctive age form. What's staggering is their uniformity. It's as if they were mass-produced from a single, perfect mold. Each one has intricate cuts, internal right angles, and smooth, polished surfaces that seem almost impossible to achieve with primitive tools. The consistency from one block to the next is so precise that it has led many to question the official explanation. Were these purely decorative, or were they interlocking components of a much larger, now lost structure? Their purpose remains one of Pumapunku's greatest riddles, but the precision doesn't stop with the age blocks. Throughout the site, you find stones with perfectly straight edges, ruler-flat surfaces, and drilled holes that are so flawless they look like they were made with a modern power drill. Some stones have incredibly complex, multifaceted cuts and internal corners that would be a challenge for a stonemason today, even with diamond-tipped tools. How did an ancient culture supposedly equipped with only stone and bronze implements, achieve this level of sophistication. The grooves and channels cut into some of the blocks are particularly baffling. They are often just millimeters wide, perfectly straight, and run for several feet. Some researchers have suggested that these might have been for decorative metal inlays, which is a plausible theory. However, the sheer perfection of the cuts themselves is what is so hard to explain. When you run your hand along these surfaces, you can feel a smoothness that speaks of an advanced finishing technique. It's a level of craftsmanship that seems wildly out of place for its supposed time period. Perhaps the most compelling evidence for an alternative view lies in the complex stone joinery. The builders of Pumapunku didn't just stack stones on top of each other. They created intricate, interlocking joints, almost like a three-dimensional puzzle. You can find edge-shaped sockets designed to hold metal clamps, which would have locked the massive blocks together, making the structure earthquake-resistant. This is a brilliant engineering solution, but it also shows an advanced understanding of both stonework and metallurgy. Where did this knowledge come from? This is where the debate really heats up. On one side, you have mainstream archaeology, which maintains that all of this was achieved through time, patience, and the clever application of simple tools by the Tiwanaku people. They argue that we often underestimate the capabilities of ancient civilizations, and that with enough manpower and ingenuity, these feats were entirely possible. They point to experimental archaeology projects that have attempted to replicate some of these techniques with varying degrees of success. From their perspective, attributing this work to anything beyond human skill is unnecessary and ignores the cultural context of the Tiwanaku. On the other side, you have alternative theorists and independent researchers. They look at the evidence, precision cuts, the massive skill, the complex geometry, and argue that the official explanation just doesn't add up. They propose that a lost, highly advanced civilization, perhaps one that existed long before the Tiwanaku, was responsible for the core construction of Pumapunku. Some even go a step further, suggesting the involvement of extraterrestrial technology. They argue that the tool marks, the precision, and the sheer scale of the project point to a level of technology far beyond what was supposedly available. They ask, are we looking at the work of ancient humans with simple tools? Or are we looking at the remnants of a forgotten high-tech age? Consider the material itself. Andesite is an extremely hard volcanic rock, ranking right below diamond on the Mohs scale of hardness. The idea of shaping this material with softer stone or bronze tools into such complex forms with such high precision seems, to many, almost impossible. It's like trying to carve a steel block with a wooden knife. Could they have had a lost technique for softening the stone? Or were the tools they used far more advanced than we currently believe? The site was also apparently destroyed by a cataclysmic event, perhaps a great flood or earthquake, which explains why the stones are scattered so chaotically. This has led some to connect the destruction of Pumapunku with ancient flood myths from around the world, suggesting it might be far older than the accepted date of around 1,500 years ago. Geologists and alternative historians have pointed to sediment layers and stone weathering patterns as potential evidence for a much greater antiquity, possibly dating back over 12,000 years. If true, this would completely rewrite our understanding of human history and the development of civilization. So, what are we to make of Pumapunku? Is it a monument to the incredible and perhaps underestimated skill of the Tiwanaku people? A testament to what thousands of dedicated hands can achieve over generations? Or is it a ghost from a much deeper past, a whisper of a lost golden age of technology and knowledge, a site where a forgotten chapter of human history is written in stone, waiting for us to finally learn how to read it? Pumapunku doesn't offer easy answers. Instead, it offers questions. It forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge and to be open to possibilities that might seem extraordinary. The stones don't lie. They sit there, silent and solid under the Andean sky, bearing witness to a forgotten story. Whether it's a story of human genius or something far more mysterious, it's a story that continues to captivate and mystify all who visit. What do you think? Were the builders of Pumapunku simply masters of their craft? Or is there more to the story? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's greatest puzzles, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more explorations into the unknown. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the sands of time. Today, we re-tackling one of the biggest questions in history. How exactly did the ancient Egyptians build the pyramids? The sheer scale of these monuments has baffled people for centuries, leading to some pretty wild theories. But what does the actual evidence tell us? Let's dive into Chapter 12. The tools and techniques of the pyramid builders. First, let's talk about the basic toolkit. Forget lasers and advanced machinery. The primary tools were remarkably simple, yet incredibly effective. Archaeologists have found thousands of them. Hard, rounded dolerite hammerstones. These weren't just any rocks. They were carefully selected for their durability. Workers used these pounders to quarry the massive limestone blocks, chipping away at the bedrock piece by piece. It was grueling, repetitive work, but with enough time and manpower, it was entirely possible. Imagine thousands of workers, hammering in unison, slowly but surely freeing these giant stones from the earth. But how did they get those smooth, perfect surfaces we see on the casing stones? This is where ingenuity really shines. The answer is sand. Not just any sand, but quartz sand, which is incredibly abrasive. The Egyptians would use copper saws, which were relatively soft, but they'd pour a slurry of wet quartz sand into the cut. The saw's motion would drag the abrasive sand back and forth, acting like liquid sandpaper. This technique allowed them to slice through even the hardest granite with surprising precision. It wasn't fast, but it'd work. Think of it like a modern water jet cutter, but powered by human muscle and patience. They would also use this sand slurry to polish the surfaces of the blocks, rubbing them with smoother stones until they gleamed. So, they've quarried and shaped the blocks. Now for the truly mind-boggling part. How did they lift these multi-ton behemoths into place, hundreds of feet in the air? The most widely accepted theory, supported by archaeological evidence, is the use of ramps. Now, when you hear ramp, you might picture one single, long ramp going straight up the side of the pyramid. The problem with that is it would have to be incredibly long over. A mealand would contain almost as much material as the pyramid itself. So, archaeologists have proposed several other possibilities. One popular idea is a spiral ramp that corkscrewed around the outside of the pyramid as it was built. This would have been much more efficient. Another theory, which has gained a lot of traction recently, suggests an internal ramp system. Evidence for this comes from microgravimetry scans of the Great Pyramid, which detected a spiral-shaped void inside the structure. This could be the remains of a ramp that was built into the pyramid and then covered over. A French architectural team has been a major proponent of this internal ramp theory, suggesting it's the most logical solution to the logistical puzzle. Whichever ramp system they used, the next ingredient was pure, unadulterated manpower. We're talking about tens of thousands of skilled laborers, not slaves, as Hollywood often portrays. We know this from the discovery of the workers' village near the Giza Plateau. Excavations there have revealed a well-organized community with bakeries, breweries, and medical facilities. The skeletons of these workers show signs of hard labor, but also of healed bones and proper medical care, indicating they were a valued workforce. These workers would have pulled the massive blocks up the ramps on wooden sleds. To reduce friction, they would have likely poured water on the sand in front of the sled, a technique depicted in ancient Egyptian artwork. A famous tomb painting from about 1900 BC shows exactly this. A colossal statue being moved by workers, with one person standing on the front of the sled, pouring liquid onto the path ahead. It's a simple but brilliant piece of physics. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. The myths. Did aliens build the pyramids? Was it a lost, technologically advanced civilization? While these ideas are exciting, there's simply no evidence to support them. We haven't found any alien power tools or remnants of ancient high-tech machinery. What we have found are the simple tools, the workers' village, the quarries, and the remains of the ramps. The allure of these myths comes from a sense of wonder, a feeling that ancient people couldn't possibly have achieved something so grand, but in a way that underestimates them. The real magic of the pyramids isn't in some external, unknown force. It's in the testament to human ingenuity, organization, and sheer willpower. The ability to coordinate a massive workforce, to invent clever solutions using basic materials, and to sustain a project over decades is, in many ways, more impressive than any supernatural explanation. The mystery of the pyramids isn't about asterisk, if asterisk humans built them, but in the finer details of asterisk, how asterisk. Debates still rage among Egyptologists about the exact configuration of the ramps, the precise methods for lifting the final capstone, or the logistical genius required to feed and house such a large workforce. These are the real questions that drive modern research. So, while we debunk the more fanciful myths, we don't lose the magic. We replace it with a deep respect for the builders themselves. They weren't gods or aliens. They were people. People with incredible skill, dedication, and a vision that literally reached for the heavens. By studying their tools and techniques, we get a clearer picture, not of some unknowable mystery, but of one of humanity's greatest and most inspiring achievements. The evidence points to a combination of simple tools like dolerite pounders, clever techniques like using abrasive sand with copper saws, and immense, well-organized manpower using sleds and complex ramp systems. The Great Pyramid of Giza is not a monument to lost technology, but a monument to human potential. And that, I think, is a story far more powerful. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like and subscribe for more chapters in our journey through history. Welcome! Let's journey to the high plains of the Andes, to the This vast plateau, nestled between mountain ranges, is a place of breathtaking beauty and extreme conditions. It stretches across parts of Peru, Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina, sitting at an average altitude of over 12,000 feet. Here, the air is thin, the sun is intense, and the nights are bitingly cold. For millennia, people have not only survived but thrived in this challenging landscape. Their secret, an ingenious agricultural system that seems almost magical in its simplicity and effectiveness. Tonight, we'll explore this ancient wonder, known as waro-waro, or raised field agriculture. It's a story of human ingenuity, ecological harmony, and a profound understanding of nature's rhythms. So, find a comfortable position, close your eyes if you wish, and let us travel back in time to understand how ancient civilizations turned a harsh environment into a breadbasket. Imagine the landscape of the Altiplano. During the day, the equatorial sun beats down, warming the earth, but as night falls, the clear, thin air offers no blanket to hold that warmth. Temperatures plummet, often dropping below freezing. This nightly frost is the bane of farmers. A single cold snap can wipe out an entire crop, spelling disaster for a community. The soil itself can be poor, and during the rainy season, flatlands become waterlogged, while the dry season brings drought. How could anyone possibly cultivate a reliable food source here? This is the puzzle that the ancestors of the Inca, long before the rise of their empire, managed to solve. They didn't fight against the environment, they worked with it, creating a system that harnessed the very elements that made farming so difficult. The sun, the water, and the cold. Their solution was the waro-waro. The name, from the Quechua language, describes the system perfectly. Picture a vast, grid-like pattern etched into the landscape. It consists of raised beds of soil, like long, wide platforms, separated by a network of interconnected water channels. These are not just simple mounds and ditches. They are a sophisticated, carefully engineered system of land and water management. The raised beds, or platforms, could be anywhere from 15 to 50 feet wide, several hundred feet long, and about 3 feet high. They were built by digging out the soil from the channels and piling it onto the beds, creating a raised surface for planting crops like potatoes, quinoa, and other hardy Andean staples. The channels would then fill with water from rainfall, rivers, or natural springs. At first glance, it might look like a simple drainage system, and that is certainly one of its functions. During the heavy rains, the channels prevent the planting beds from becoming waterlogged, protecting the crop roots from rot. But the true genius of the waro-waro system goes far beyond drainage. It's a passive, self-regulating microclimate generator. Think of the water in the channels as a massive, natural battery for storing heat. During the day, the intense Andean sun warms the water. As the sun sets and the air temperature drops rapidly, the water slowly releases its stored heat into the surrounding atmosphere. This creates a gentle blanket of warmer, moister air that hovers over the raised fields. This subtle but crucial temperature difference, just a few degrees, is often enough to keep the crops from freezing during the cold nights. The water acts as a thermal buffer, protecting the precious harvest from the deadly frost. The benefits don't stop there. The water in the channels creates a more humid environment right where the plants need it most, which is a huge advantage during the long, arid, dry seasons. The channels act as a reservoir, providing a source of moisture for the plant roots that extends deep into the raised beds. This subrogation system meant that crops could survive periods of low rainfall that would otherwise have been devastating. It was a brilliant solution to the twin problems of seasonal flooding and seasonal drought. The system essentially moderated the extremes of the Altiplano's climate, creating a stable and predictable environment for agriculture. This stability is the foundation of any successful civilization. Furthermore, the Woro system was a model of sustainable, regenerative agriculture. The channels weren't just for water. They became rich aquatic habitats. Algae, aquatic plants, and tiny organisms thrived in them. Over time, this organic matter would decompose at the bottom of the channels, creating a nutrient-rich muck or sludge. Periodically, farmers would dredge this organic fertilizer from the channels and spread it over the raised beds. This process continually replenished the soil's fertility without the need for external inputs. The system created its own fertilizer, ensuring that the land could be farmed productively, year after year, century after century, without depleting the soil. The raised beds themselves, with that loose, well-aerated soil mixed with this rich, organic matter, provided a perfect growing medium. The results of this incredible system were astonishing. Modern studies recreating Woro have shown that crop yields can be significantly higher than in conventional fields. In the same region, potato yields, for example, could be double or even triple the average. By mitigating the risks of frost, flood, and drought, and by constantly renewing soil fertility, the Woro system provided a reliable and abundant food supply. This agricultural surplus was the engine that powered the growth of large, complex societies around Lake Titicaca, such as the Tiwanaku civilization, which flourished for over 1,000 years. These vast, geometric fields supported populations much larger than what the region supports today. The remains of these ancient field systems, still visible from the air, cover thousands of acres, a testament to the scale and success of this agricultural marvel. So why did this amazing system fall into disuse? After the decline of the Tiwanaku and other great Altiplano cultures, and later with the Spanish conquest, there were massive societal shifts. Traditional knowledge systems were disrupted, and populations were moved. The intricate social organization required to maintain the vast networks of canals and fields likely broke down. The Spanish introduced new crops and European farming methods, like the plow, which were ill-suited to the delicate ecology of the high Andes. For centuries, the genius of the Woro was largely forgotten, the abandoned fields standing as silent monuments on the landscape. However, in recent decades, there has been a renewed interest in this ancient technology. Archaeologists and agricultural scientists, working with local Andean communities, have begun to revive and study the Woro system. They recognize that this ancient solution holds powerful lessons for modern challenges in a world facing climate change, with more extreme weather events. The risk-reducing, water-conserving, and sustainable principles of Woro are more relevant than ever. These revival projects have been successful, once again demonstrating the system's ability to protect crops from frost and increase yields, providing greater food security for local families. It is a beautiful example of how the wisdom of the past can offer profound solutions for the future. As we conclude our journey, let's reflect on the quiet brilliance of the Woro. It's a story not of grand monuments of stone, but of a monument of earth and water, of Libyan soil. It represents a deep, symbiotic relationship with the land, an understanding that by carefully managing water and soil, one can create abundance even in the harshest of places. It's a testament to the ingenuity of ancient peoples who, through careful observation and multi-generational knowledge, learned to dance with the elements rather than fight them. The gentle lapping of water in the channels, the slow release of warmth into the night air, the cyclical renewal of the soilets, a system of elegant, quiet power. It reminds us that sometimes the most profound technologies are not complex machines, but rather a deep understanding of the natural world and our place within it. Thank you for joining this exploration of the Altiplanos. Agricultural genius, I hope it has brought you a sense of calm and wonder. If you enjoyed this journey, please consider subscribing for more stories from our shared past. Until next time, sleep well. Welcome back to our journey through the enigmatic world of the Tiwanaku. In this chapter, we're diving deep into the vibrant heart of their culture, their art, their pottery, and their extraordinary textiles. This isn't just about beautiful objects. It's about understanding how the Tiwanaku people saw their world, their cosmos, and their place within it. Let's start with their visual language. When you look at Tiwanaku art, you're immediately struck by its geometric precision and powerful symbolism. It's a very formal, abstract style, not meant to be a realistic snapshot of life, but a window into a deeper, spiritual reality. They used a limited but potent color palette, dominated by rich reds, deep blues, earthy ochres, and stark blacks and whites. These weren't just random color choices. They were imbued with meaning, likely representing different elements of their world earth. Sky, water, and the sacred. One of the most iconic figures you'll see repeated across their art is the staff god, who we met at the gateway of the sun. This central deity, with its rayed headdress and staffs in each hand, is a master of the cosmos. But he's not alone. You'll also find stylized pumas and condors, animals that held immense power in the Andean worldview. The puma, a creature of the earth, represented strength and worldly power. The condor, soaring high above the mountains, was the messenger to the heavens, connecting the earthly and celestial realms. You'll also see felines with bird heads, or human figures with animal attributes, blurring the lines between the human, the animal, and the divine. This fusion of forms speaks to a belief system where these realms were not separate, but deeply interconnected. Another common motif is the stepped diamond, or chacana, the Andean cross. This symbol is a geometric representation of the cosmos, representing the three levels of existency: upper world of the gods, the middle world of humans, and the lower world of the ancestors. It's a map of their universe, encoded in stone, clay, and fiber. Now, let's talk about pottery. Tiwanaku ceramics are instantly recognizable. They created a wide range of vessels, but some of the most distinctive are the kiro and the sakumario. Kiros are flared beakers, often made in pairs. They weren't your everyday drinking cups. These were used for ceremonial toasts with chicha, a fermented corn beverage, during important rituals and feasts. The act of two people drinking together from a pair of keros was a powerful symbol of social and political bonding, a way to seal alliances and reaffirm community ties. The keros themselves were canvases for their cosmology, decorated with the same powerful symbols as staff god, pumas, condors, and geometric patterns. Holding a kiro was like holding a piece of the sacred world in your hands. Then there are the sakumarios, or incense burners. These are often modeled to look like a puma or a llama. Imagine a ceremonial space filled with the fragrant smoke of sacred resins wafting from the back of a ceramic puma. These objects were not just containers. They were active participants in ritual, helping to create a sacred atmosphere and communicate with the divine. The craftsmanship is incredible. Tiwanaku potters used a high-fire technique, resulting in a hard, durable ceramic with a beautifully polished surface. The painted designs are crisp and precise, applied before firing so they become a permanent part of the vessel. They also created stunning portrait vessels, which are incredibly realistic depictions of individuals, perhaps rulers or important elites. These faces, with their distinct features and expressions, give us a powerful, personal connection to the people of Tiwanaku, staring back at us across 1,000 years. But of all their artistic achievements, perhaps the most important, and certainly the most valued, were their textiles. It's hard for us to grasp today, but in the Andean world, textiles were more valuable than gold or silver. They were the primary form of wealth, art, and communication, a person's status, social role, and ethnic identity were all displayed in the clothes they wore. The finest textiles were reserved for the elite and for religious ceremonies, used as offerings to the gods or to wrap the revered bodies of the dead. The skill of Tiwanaku weavers was simply breathtaking. They worked with the fine wool of alpacas and vicucas, as well as cotton, and used a vast array of natural dyes to create a stunning spectrum of colors. They mastered incredibly complex weaving techniques, like the tapestry weave, which allowed them to create intricate, two-sided designs that were as sharp and clear as a painting. In fact, many of the designs we see on their pottery and stone carvings may have originated in textile patterns. Weaving was the primary medium, the place where artistic ideas were born and perfected. Think about the labor involved, spinning the thread, dyeing the wool, and then spending months, or even years, on a single loom to create one masterful piece. These weren't just blankets or clothes. They were sacred documents. They encoded history, mythology, and cosmological knowledge. A single tunic could be a map of the universe, a statement of political power, or a prayer in woven form. When a Tiwanaku leader wore a tunic covered in puma and kuma motifs, he wasn't just wearing a pattern. He was embodying the power of those sacred animals, declaring his connection to both the earth and the heavens. The preservation of these textiles is a miracle. The dry, cold climate of the high Andes has allowed some of these thousand-year-old masterpieces to survive, giving us a direct link to the genius of their creators. When we look at a Tiwanaku textile, we are seeing the culmination of their artistic and spiritual expression. The precision of the geometry, the vibrancy of the color, and the depth of the symbolism all come together in these woven wonders. They are a testament to a society that placed immense value on artistry, technical skill, and the power of symbols to express the most profound truths of their existence. From the monumental stone carvings to the intimate detail of a woven thread, the art of Tiwanaku is a unified and powerful expression of their worldview. It's a language that, even after a millennium of silence, still speaks to us of power, cosmos, and the sacred. Thanks for watching. Be sure to follow as we continue our exploration of this incredible civilization. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into history. Today, we're exploring Chapter 5, which paints a fascinating picture of the social and political structure of a truly unique, ancient community. What was daily life really like for these people? And who was in charge? Let's unravel the mysteries together. Imagine a society where life flows with a sense of calm and order. Evidence suggests this community was remarkably peaceful. Unlike many of their contemporaries, their settlements show very few signs of warfare or internal conflict. There are no massive fortifications, no caches of weapons, and very few depictions of battles in their art. Instead, what we see is a society built on cooperation and stability. Life wasn't a chaotic struggle for survival. It was organized, predictable, and deeply rooted in a shared sense of purpose. This wasn't a primitive free-for-all. It was a carefully structured world where everyone seemed to know their place and their role. This organization is visible in the layout of their towns and villages. The architecture isn't random. We see planned streets, public plazas, and designated areas for different activities, like crafting, food preparation, and ceremonies. This suggests a central authority, or at least a strong community consensus on how to live together. It points to a society that valued order and efficiency. Homes were clustered together, suggesting close-knit family units and neighborhoods. The communal spaces were large and centrally located, indicating that public life and shared activities were incredibly important. Think of it like a well-designed city, where the infrastructure is meant to support not just individuals, but the community as a whole. This level of planning hints that somebody or some group was making decisions for the greater good, but what truly defined their existence was the focus on ritual. Life wasn't just about working and sleeping. It was steeped in ceremony. From small daily observances to grand seasonal festivals, rituals punctuated every aspect of their lives. We find elaborate ceremonial structures, intricate artifacts used in religious practices, and art that is saturated with symbolic meaning. These rituals likely addressed everything from ensuring a good harvest and honoring the ancestors to marking important life events like birth, coming of age, and death. This constant engagement with the sacred would have provided a powerful social glue, reinforcing their shared beliefs and values. It gave their lives meaning beyond the mundane and connected them to the cosmos and to each other. So, who was orchestrating this peaceful, organized, and ritual-centric society? This is where the elites and priests come into the picture. It's highly probable that a specialized class of leaders guided the community. These wouldn't have been kings or emperors ruling by force, but rather a more subtle form of leadership. Let's start with the elites. Wowerete. They were likely influential families or clans who controlled key resources, such as the best land or access to important trade goods. Their status might have been hereditary, passed down through generations. We see evidence of this in burial practices, where some individuals are interred with far more lavish and exotic grave goods than others at tombs like rare shells. Finely crafted pottery and intricate jewelry. These weren't just personal trinkets. They were symbols of power and prestige. These elite families probably didn't rule with an iron fist. Instead, their influence would have been more about social standing and economic clout. They might have sponsored large feasts, funded the construction of public buildings, and organized trade expeditions. By providing for the community and displaying their wealth, they earned respect and loyalty. People would look to them for leadership and guidance, not because they were forced to, but because the elites had proven their ability to bring prosperity and stability. Their power was soft power, based on influence and social obligation rather than military might. Now let's talk about the priests, who likely formed another, and possibly overlapping, pillar of leadership. In a society so focused on ritual, the people who could interpret the will of the gods and lead the ceremonies would have held immense power. Priests weren't just religious figures. They were likely scholars, astronomers, and healers. They would have managed the calendar, determined the right times for planting and harvesting, and presided over all the important rituals that kept the cosmos in balance and the community safe. Their knowledge was a form of power. They understood the secret language of the stars and the divine. They could predict eclipses, manage agricultural cycles, and perform the rites that were believed to guarantee the community's survival. The main ceremonial centers, the grandest buildings in the community, were their domain. This is where they would have performed public rituals and stored sacred knowledge. It's very likely that the elite and priestly classes were intertwined. The head of a powerful elite family might also have been the chief priest. Or certain families might have held a monopoly on important religious roles for generations. This fusion of secular and religious authority is a classic model of leadership in early societies. Power wasn't just about controlling land or wealth. It was about controlling access to the divine. The elites provided the material resources for grand ceremonies, and the priests provided the spiritual legitimacy that upheld the elite's authority. It was a symbiotic relationship. The elites funded the construction of temples, and in return the priests declared that the gods favored the ruling families. This created a powerful and stable system of governance. The general population would have seen their leaders not just as wealthy administrators, but as essential intermediaries between the human world and the sacred realm. Following their lead was not just a political or social necessity. It was a religious duty. This combination of economic influence and spiritual authority is likely the key to understanding how this society remained so organized and peaceful for so long. The leaders guided society not through coercion, but through a shared belief system that they themselves curated and maintained. In summary, life in this ancient community was a tapestry woven from threads of peace, order, and deep ritual significance. It was a world guided by a sophisticated leadership structure where elites and priests worked in concert. They used their control over resources and sacred knowledge to create a stable, cooperative, and spiritually rich society. This wasn't a world of despots and armies, but one of influential families and wise intermediaries who guided their people through consensus and shared belief. It is a compelling model of social organization that challenges many of our assumptions about the ancient world. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you found this exploration as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video. Welcome back to our journey through the Andes. Today, we're venturing into the spiritual heart of one of South America's most enigmatic civilizations, Tiwanaku. Get ready to explore a world of powerful deities, mind-altering rituals, and a cosmic order that shaped an entire empire. The spiritual landscape of Tiwanaku was as vast and impressive as its stone monuments. At the center of their pantheon stood a powerful figure, often called the staff god. You've probably seen him, even if you didn't know his name. He's the imposing central figure on the famous gateway of the sun at Tiwanaku. Flanked by winged attendants, he gazes out with squared eyes, holding a staff in each hand, which many believe represent lightning bolts or agricultural fertility. This deity was the master of the sky, the bringer of rain, and the ultimate source of life and abundance. His image wasn't just confined to monumental gates. It was everywhere on textiles, ceramics, and metalwork. A constant reminder of the divine power that governed their world. But who was this staff god? While his exact identity is debated, many scholars see him as an early precursor to the later Inca god Viraca, the creator deity. For the Tiwanaku people, he was the axis of the cosmos, the point where the heavens, the earth, and the underworld met. This worldview, or cosmology, was deeply woven into the very fabric of their city. The monumental complex of Tiwanaku itself was a ceremonial center, a stage for the reenactment of cosmic events. The layout of its temples, pyramids, and sunken courts was designed to align with celestial bodies like the sun and stars, marking important agricultural cycles and religious festivals. The city was a living map of their universe. Ritual and ceremony were the lifeblood of Tiwanaku society. These weren't just quiet prayers. They were vibrant, large-scale public events. Imagine massive gatherings in the sunken temple, with music from panpipes and drums filling the air. Feasting was a huge part of these ceremonies. Archaeologists have found enormous quantities of ceramic vessels, especially a type of drinking cup called a kiro, used for consuming chicha, a fermented corn beer. Sharing food and drink was a way to strengthen social bonds and show devotion to the gods. But these rituals also had a darker, more intense side. Evidence suggests that animal and even human sacrifice played a role in their most important ceremonies. These offerings were seen as a way to repay the gods for their gifts of rain and bountiful harvests, maintaining the delicate balance between the human and divine worlds. It was a reciprocal relationship. The people fed the gods, and in return the gods sustained the people. Now, let's talk about how the Tiwanaku people connected directly with the spirit world. Shamanism was a core component of their religious practice. Shamans were the intermediaries, individuals who could journey to other realms to communicate with spirits and deities. And how did they make these journeys? Through powerful hallucinogenic substances. Snuff trays, intricately carved from bone or wood, are one of the most common artifacts found in Tiwanaku contexts. These were used to inhale psychoactive powders, likely derived from the vilca tree. These substances induced altered states of consciousness, allowing shamans to transform, often taking on the characteristics of powerful animals like pumas and condors, which were also sacred beings in their cosmology. These transformation rituals were deeply personal yet publicly significant. The iconography is filled with images of shamanic figures, part human, part animal, their eyes wide from the effects of the snuff. This wasn't just about experiencing visions. It was about gaining divine knowledge, healing the sick, and ensuring the community's well-being. The shaman was a spiritual guide, a healer, and a protector, wielding immense power and respect. The kiro cups I mentioned earlier also tell a story. Many are decorated with scenes of ritual, mythological beings, and portraits of elites, perhaps even the shamans themselves. One recurring motif is the sacrificer, a figure holding a ceremonial knife and a severed head. This reinforces the importance of sacrifice in their worldview. These weren't random acts of violence, but highly structured rituals integral to maintaining cosmic order. The heads were likely those of enemies or sacrificial victims, and their offering was believed to nourish the earth and guarantee fertility. As we piece together these clues the staff got on the gateway, the alignment of the temples, the remnants of massive feasts, the shaman's snuff kit, and the graphic scenes on their Potoria complex picture of Tiwanaku spirituality emerges. It was a religion that integrated every aspect of life, from farming to politics. The cosmos was not a distant concept. It was a reality they lived and breathed, a sacred stage on which they performed the rituals necessary to sustain their world. The leaders of Tiwanaku were not just kings. They were high priests, the primary conduits to the divine. Their authority was rooted in their ability to mediate with the staff god and the other powerful forces that shaped their existence. When the Tiwanaku state eventually collapsed around 1000 AD, its monumental city was abandoned, but its spiritual legacy endured. The staff god, the cosmological concepts, and the ritual practices didn't just disappear. They were absorbed and adapted by later cultures, most notably the Inca, who saw Tiwanaku as a sacred place of origins. The echoes of Tiwanaku's spiritual world can still be heard today in the traditions and beliefs of modern Andean communities, a testament to the enduring power of their faith. It's a powerful reminder that while empires may fall, the deep-seated beliefs that give meaning to human existence can last for millennia. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the spiritual world of Tiwanaku. I hope it gave you a new appreciation for the complexity and richness of this ancient culture. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss our next chapter. See you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into the fascinating history of the Americas. Today, we're journeying high into the Andes Mountains to uncover the secrets of a civilization that mastered its environment in ways that still astound us. The Tiwanaku. Forget what you think you know about ancient trade, because the Tiwanaku built an economic powerhouse long before the Inca Empire rose to prominence. Their influence stretched for hundreds of miles, connecting vastly different ecological zones, from the high-altitude plains to the Pacific coast and the Amazonian lowlands. But how did they do it? How did they manage to move goods and ideas across such a challenging landscape without wheels or a written language as we know it? The answer lies in a complex and sophisticated network of trade, diplomacy, and sheer ingenuity. So, grab your virtual hiking gear, because we're about to follow the ancient trade routes of the Tiwanaku and explore the long-distance connections that define their world. This is a story of llama caravans, precious metals, and the incredible resilience of a people who thrived at the top of the world. Let's start with the backbone of Andean commerce, the llama caravan. These remarkable animals were the trucks, trains, and cargo ships of the pre-Columbian Andes, perfectly adapted to the high altitudes and rugged terrain. Imagine hundreds of llamas, each capable of carrying between 50 to 75 pounds of goods, trekking for weeks across narrow mountain paths. These caravans were not just a means of transport. They were the lifeblood of the Tiwanaku economy. They were organized expeditions, likely managed by specialists who knew the routes, the weather patterns, and the communities they would encounter along the way. These journeys connected the core of the Tiwanaku state, located near the southern shores of Lake Titicaca at an altitude of over 12,000 feet, with distant regions that offered resources unavailable in the highlands. It was a slow, deliberate process. A journey that might take a few hours by car today would have taken these caravans weeks or even months. This slow exploration forged deep and lasting connections, weaving a complex tapestry of exchange and cultural interaction across the Andes. The caravans were more than just economic ventures. They were social and political missions, carrying not just goods, but also influence and information. So, what were these incredible llama caravans carrying? One of the most significant and culturally important commodities was the coca leaf. Now, it is crucial to understand that coca in the ancient Andes had a very different meaning than it does today. It was a sacred plant, deeply integrated into ritual, social, and medicinal life. Chewing coca leaves helped to alleviate the effects of high altitude, providing stamina and suppressing hunger and thirst during long journeys. It was also a central element in religious ceremonies, used as an offering to the gods and ancestors. The best coca grew in the warm, humid valleys of the eastern Andean slopes, known as the For the highland-dwelling people of Tiwanaku, accessing this resource was a top priority. The caravans would descend from the cold, arid altiplano into these lush valleys to trade for coca leaves. This exchange wasn't just about getting a product. It was about maintaining vital connections with the communities who cultivated it. In return for coca, the Tiwanaku likely offered highland products like dried meat, potatoes, and high-quality textiles. This exchange created a system of mutual dependence, linking diverse ecological zones and cultures into a single, interconnected economic sphere. The presence of coca in highland tombs and settlements is clear evidence of this long-distance trade, a testament to the power of the llama caravan. Beyond the sacred coca leaf, the Tiwanaku were master metallurgists, and their desire for metals drove much of their long-distance trade. The Andes are incredibly rich in mineral resources, and the artisans of Tiwanaku had the sophisticated knowledge to transform copper, tin, gold, and silver into objects of stunning beauty and symbolic power. They were among the first in the region to intentionally create bronze, an alloy of copper and tin. This was a major technological innovation. Bronze is harder and more durable than pure copper, making it superior for creating tools, weapons, and ceremonial items. The problem was that copper and tin deposits were often not found in the same place. Copper might be sourced from one mountain range, while tin had to be brought in from another, sometimes hundreds of miles away. This is where the trade networks were essential. Llama caravans would have been dispatched to mining enclaves throughout the south-central Andes to acquire the raw ores. These materials would then be transported back to the urban centers of Tiwanaku, where skilled craftspeople would smelt, cast, and hammer them into intricate ornaments, ceremonial blades, and status symbols for the elite. Gold and silver were particularly prized for their ritual significance, associated with the sun and the moon. These precious metals were fashioned into masks, plaques, and jewelry that adorned the elite in both life and death. The trade in metals wasn't just about economics. It was about power, prestige, and communicating with the divine. Another key material that reveals the vast reach of Tiwanaku's trade network is obsidian. Obsidian is a type of volcanic glass that, when fractured, creates an edge sharper than a modern surgical scalpel. For a society without steel, obsidian was an incredibly valuable resource, used to make razor-sharp projectile points, knives, and scraping tools. It was the high-tech material of its day. The thing about obsidian is that its chemical composition is unique to its specific volcanic source. This means that archaeologists can analyze an obsidian artifact found at a Tiwanaku site and trace it back to the exact volcano it came from. This technique, called obsidian sourcing, has been revolutionary. It's like a geological fingerprint. Studies have shown that obsidian found at Tiwanaku came from sources that were hundreds of miles away. For example, a significant amount of their obsidian was sourced from the Quispacisa volcano, located in modern-day Peru, a journey of over 400 miles through challenging mountain terrain. This wasn't a casual exchange. It implies a highly organized, intentional, and long-term trade relationship. Acquiring this high-quality obsidian required a significant investment of time and resources, sending caravans on long-distance expeditions. The presence of this material so far from its source is one of the clearest and most powerful indicators of the scale and complexity of the Tiwanaku economy and their ability to maintain connections across a vast and difficult geography. Finally, let's look at an item that connected the high Andes to the sea. Ornamental shells, specifically the spondylus shell, also known as the thorny oyster. This vibrant red and orange shell lives in the warm coastal waters off the coast of what is now Ecuador, thousands of miles north of the Tiwanaku heartland. For the people of the Andes, spondylus was more valuable than gold. It was deeply associated with water, fertility, and the supernatural world. Its presence was believed to herald the coming of the rains, which were essential for agriculture in the arid highlands. Finding spondylus shells in the ruins of Tiwanaku, more than 12,000 feet above sea level and so far from their marine home, is simply astonishing. It speaks to the existence of an incredibly long and complex chain of exchange. Tiwanaku likely didn't send their own caravans all the way to Ecuador. Instead, the shells would have been passed from one group to another, traveling south through a series of intermediaries until they reached the high-altitude markets of the Titicaca Basin. In return, Tiwanaku's highly valued goods, like their distinctive pottery, fine textiles, and bronze objects, would have traveled northward along these same routes. This exchange connected completely different worlds, the warm Pacific coast and the cold high Andes. It shows that the Tiwanaku trade network wasn't just a Spokane model centered on the capital, but an interconnected web that linked them into a pan-Andean world system of belief and exchange. So, when we piece it all together, a remarkable picture emerges. The Tiwanaku civilization was not an isolated mountain kingdom. It was the vibrant center of a vast and dynamic network that pulsed with the movement of goods, people, and ideas. Through the slow and steady journeys of llama caravans, they drew upon the resources of a continent. They brought sacred coca leaves from the eastern jungles, precious metals from remote mountain mines, sharp obsidian from distant volcanoes, and sacred spondylus shells from the tropical ocean. This slow exploration forged long-distance connections that were the bedrock of their power and influence. It was a system built not on conquest alone, but on a sophisticated understanding of reciprocity, resource management, and long-distance diplomacy. The legacy of these trade networks didn't vanish with the decline of Tiwanaku. The roots they established, the knowledge they accumulated, and the very concept of connecting different ecological zones would be inherited and expanded upon by the civilization that followed them. The Inca. The story of Tiwanaku's trade is a powerful reminder that ancient peoples were incredibly connected and that the Andes have been a hub of innovation and exchange for millennia. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. I hope you found the world of Andean trade as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this exploration, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments which ancient economy you'd like to explore next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back to our journey through the annals of history. Today, we turn our gaze to the high Andes, to a civilization that once thrived against all odds, only to vanish into the mists of time. This is the story of the decline of Tiwanaku. For centuries, Tiwanaku was a beacon of ingenuity and spiritual power, a sprawling metropolis near the shores of Lake Titicaca. Its people mastered high-altitude agriculture, building vast systems of raised fields, or sukako, that protected their crops from the harsh Andean climate. They built monumental stone gateways and temples, aligning them with the cosmos, reflecting a society deeply connected to both the earth and the sky. Imagine a bustling city, its ceremonial core alive with rituals, its markets filled with goods from across the Andes, and its fields green with potatoes and quinoa. This was Tiwanaku at its zenith, a dominant force in the south-central Andes for over 500 years. But empires, no matter how mighty, are not immune to the forces of nature. Around the year 1000 CE, something began to change. The reliable rains that fed Lake Titicaca and nourished the Sucacales started to falter. This wasn't just a dry spell. It was the beginning of a profound and enduring shift in the climate. Scientific evidence, from ice cores drilled in Andean glaciers to sediment layers from the lake bed itself, tells a story of a long and devastating drought. This wasn't a sudden catastrophe, but a slow, relentless tightening of nature's grip that would last for decades, perhaps even centuries. The climate that had allowed Tiwanaku to flourish was turning against it. The once stable environment that supported a large, concentrated population was becoming increasingly hostile, setting the stage for a dramatic and irreversible decline. As the drought intensified, the lifeline of the Tiwanaku its sophisticated agricultural system began to fail. The water levels of Lake Titicaca dropped significantly. The canals that irrigated the raised fields ran dry. The clever design of the Sucacales, which used water to regulate temperature and protect crops from frost, became ineffective without its key ingredient. Fields that once produced surpluses of food, enough to support a large urban population of artisans, priests, and elites, now yielded less and less. The potato and quinoa harvests, the very staples of the Andeans, withered. What was once a symbol of human mastery over a challenging environment became a landscape of parched earth and failed crops. The granaries, once full, began to empty. For the people of Tiwanaku, this agricultural collapse meant one thing: hunger. The state's ability to feed its people, the very foundation of its power and legitimacy, was eroding with each passing rainless season. The consequences of this agricultural failure were swift and severe. Famine is a powerful force of dispersal. Faced with starvation, the people of Tiwanaku began to leave. The once steaming city and its surrounding settlements started to empty out. Archaeologists see this in the settlement patterns of the time. Large, nucleated villages were abandoned, and people dispersed into smaller, more mobile groups. likely in a desperate search for pockets of land that could still support a few crops or provide pasture for their llama herds. The population of the Tiwanaku heartland, estimated to be in the tens of thousands at its peak, shrank dramatically. It was a mass exodus, not of armies, but of families fleeing a dying land. The great city, which had been a magnet for people for half a millennium, was now hemorrhaging its inhabitants. The social fabric that held this complex society together was beginning to unravel. With the people went the very soul of the city. Its vibrant ceremonial life. The grand rituals that once took place in the Kalasaya temple and at the Gateway of the Sun lost their meaning in their participants. These ceremonies were deeply tied to the agricultural cycle and the appeasement of deities who were believed to control the weather and ensure fertility. But as the rains failed and the crops died, year after year, faith in the power of the state's religion and its ruling elite must have crumbled. Why perform rituals to a sun god who no longer brought warmth and life to the fields? Why make offerings at temples when the priests could no longer guarantee a harvest? The elaborate feasting, a key part of Tiwanaku's political and social life, became impossible without agricultural surpluses. The monumental core of the city, once a stage for powerful displays of unity and cosmic order, fell silent. The stones remained, but the spirit had departed. The decline was not just an internal process. The weakening of the Tiwanaku core had a ripple effect across its vast sphere of influence. For centuries, Tiwanaku had been the center of a wide-ranging network of colonies, trade routes, and cultural affiliates, stretching from the Pacific coast to the eastern lowlands. These peripheral regions had supplied the capital with essential resources like maize, coca, and exotic goods. But as the central state weakened, its grip on these distant territories loosened. The colonies, which were likely also suffering from the widespread drought, began to assert their independence. The flow of goods to the capital dwindled to a trickle, and then stopped altogether. The Great Tiwanaku System, a complex web of political, economic, and religious ties, fragmented. Local identities re-emerged, and new, smaller political entities began to form in the power vacuum left by the collapsing empire. The once unified Andean world fractured into a mosaic of competing local groups. What we see in the archaeological record is a poignant story of this final phase. There is evidence of a breakdown in social order. Some monumental structures at Tiwanaku appear to have been deliberately designed. Statues were toppled and broken, and a great stone puma was intentionally smashed. Was this the work of invading enemies? Or was it the act of Tiwanaku's own desperate and disillusioned people, turning against the symbols of a failed political and religious system? The evidence is not conclusive, but it suggests a period of internal conflict and a violent rejection of the old order. Construction on the great temples, projetos like the Pumapunku, ceased abruptly. Massive, intricately carved stone blocks were left abandoned in the workshops, as if the stonemasons simply dropped their tools and walked away. The city was not violently destroyed by a foreign army, but rather, it was slowly and painfully abandoned, left to the harsh winds decisus of the Altiplano. By around 1150 CE, Tiwanaku was largely a ghost town. A few people may have lingered, living amongst the ruins of a once great civilization, but the organized state, the empire, was gone. The story of Tiwanaku's fall is a powerful and humbling reminder of the fragility of even the most advanced societies in the face of profound environmental change. It was a civilization that had brilliantly adapted to one of the world's toughest environments, but it could not survive a climate that had fundamentally and permanently shifted. The end of Tiwanaku was not a single event, but a slow, tragic process of agricultural failure, demographic collapse, and a crisis of faith, all driven by a changing climate. But the legacy of Tiwanaku did not disappear entirely. Its ideas, its technologies, and its cosmology echoed down the centuries. The later Inca Empire, which would rise to dominate the Andes, drew heavily on the organizational and ideological foundations laid by Tiwanaku. The memory of the great city by the lake lived on in the myths and legends of the Andean people, a cautionary tale of a golden age lost to the whims of the gods in the sky. Today, the enigmatic ruins of Tiwanaku stand as a silent monument to this lost world, inviting us to reflect on the intricate dance between human civilization and the natural world. A dance whose steps we are still trying to understand. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the decline of Tiwanaku. If you found this journey into the past fascinating, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter in history. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring. Welcome, bike history lovers. Today, we re-journeying back in time to the high Andes to uncover the enduring legacy of a civilization that shaped a continent. Long after its great stone city fell silent, its influence continued to echo through the mountains, shaping the cultures, beliefs, and empires that followed. So, how did this ancient powerhouse leave such an indelible mark on history? Let's find out. First, let's talk about the Aymara people, who many scholars believe are the most direct descendants of the Tiwanaku. The connection is profound. The Aymara language, still spoken by millions in Bolivia, Peru, and Chile, is thought to be closely related to the language of the Tiwanaku state. Imagine the words spoken today on the shores of Lake Titicaca could be linguistic echoes from over 1,000 years ago. But it's more than just language. Aymara, agricultural techniques, like the ingenious raised fields or suka kalus, are a direct inheritance from their Tiwanaku ancestors. These aren't just farming methods. They are a testament to a deep, ancient understanding of the harsh altiplano environment. This agricultural wisdom allowed the Aymara to thrive where others might have failed, a living link to Tiwanaku ingenuity. Even Aymara's social structures, based on the Ayalu or extended family community, show strong parallels with the likely organization of the Tiwanaku state. The legacy here isn't just in ruins. It's in the very fabric of Aymara life. Now, let's turn to one of the most famous empires in history, the Inca. When the Inca rose to power centuries after Tiwanaku's decline, they didn't just build on an empty landscape. They built upon a foundation laid by Tiwanaku. The Inca were master empire builders, and they learned from the best. They saw the remnants of Tiwanaku's vast road networks, its administrative centers, and its state-controlled agricultural systems. Think of it as an imperial blueprint. The Inca adapted and expanded upon these ideas to manage their own colossal empire. The Inca even revered the site of Tiwanaku itself. For them, it was a sacred, mythological place, the site where the creator god Viracocha brought the world into being. Inca emperors would make pilgrimages to the ruins, recognizing it as a place of immense power and origin. They saw themselves not as replacing Tiwanaku, but as inheriting its spiritual and political mantle. The Inca claimed legitimacy by linking their own lineage and divine right to rule back to this ancient, hallowed ground. In a way, the Inca Empire was the grand successor, consciously or not, to the Tiwanaku project. Perhaps the most fascinating legacy is found in the spiritual and artistic heart of the Andes. Iconography is incredibly powerful and distinctive. Take the staff god, for example. This central figure, often depicted holding a staff in each hand, is a hallmark of Tiwanaku art, famously carved on the gateway of the sun. This deity didn't disappear with the empire. It was adopted and reinterpreted by later cultures, including the Wari and, eventually, the Inca. This figure evolved, but its core elements are central, powerful deity associated with creation, weather, and agriculture persisted. It became a kind of archetypal Andean god. The same goes for other motifs like the puma, the condor, and the serpent. These weren't just decorative animals. They were powerful symbols imbued with meaning by Tiwanaku, and that meaning resonated for centuries. When you see similar figures in Inca art, you're not just seeing a coincidence. You're seeing a continuous religious and artistic tradition, a visual language whose grammar was written by the master artists of Tiwanaku. So, how does Tiwanaku remain alive today? Beyond these direct influences, it lives in the cultural memory of the Andes. The ruins of Tiwanaku are more than just an archaeological site. They are a symbol of indigenous identity and endurance. For the Aymara people, it is a direct link to a glorious past, a source of pride and a reminder of their ancestors' incredible achievements in engineering, art, and statecraft. Every year, the Aymara New Year is celebrated at Tiwanaku, where thousands gather to watch the first rays of the winter solstice sun shine through the temple doorways. This is not a reenactment for tourists. It's a living ceremony. a powerful act of cultural reclamation that connects the present day directly to the cosmic orientation of the ancient temples. Tiwanaku also lives on in folklore and myth. Stories passed down through generations speak of a city of giants, a place of origin, a lost golden age. These tales keep the idea of Tiwanaku vibrant in the popular imagination, transforming it from a historical fact into a living legend. It represents a source of indigenous knowledge and power, a counter-narrative to colonial histories, and a beacon of cultural continuity. From the language and farming of the Aymara to the imperial structure of the Inca and the spiritual art that defines a region, the legacy of Tiwanaku is everywhere. It's a powerful reminder that great civilizations never truly die. They transform, they adapt, and their ideas become the seeds from which new cultures grow. The stones of Tiwanaku may be silent, but its voice still speaks, if you know how to listen. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the legacy of Tiwanaku. If you found this fascinating, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical adventure. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through history. In this final chapter, we're leaping into the present and future of archaeology. How do we uncover secrets from the past without even digging? And how do we protect these priceless sites for generations to come? Let's dive into the world of modern archaeology. For centuries, archaeology meant one thing: digging. But today, technology has given us superpowers. Imagine being able to see beneath the earth without lifting a single shovel. That's the magic of ground-penetrating radar, or GPR. It works by sending radio waves into the ground. These waves bounce off buried objects, structures, or even changes in the soil. The returning signals are then used to create a 3D map of what lies hidden beneath our feet. Think of it like a medical ultrasound for the earth. We can find forgotten city walls, ancient roads, or even lost tombs, all non-invasively. This is revolutionary. It allows archaeologists to target their excavations with surgical precision, saving immense amounts of time, money, and effort. More importantly, it helps preserve the site. By minimizing disturbance, we're no longer just blindly digging. We're exploring with a detailed map of the underworld. But GPR is just one tool in a massive high-tech toolbox. Another game-changer is LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging. This is often done from an airplane or a drone. The device shoots millions of laser pulses at the ground. By measuring how long it takes for these pulses to bounce back, we can create incredibly detailed topographical maps. What makes LiDAR so powerful, especially in places like dense jungles, is its ability to see through the vegetation. The lasers can penetrate the tree canopy and map the forest floor with centimeter-level accuracy. This has led to breathtaking discoveries, like entire ancient cities in the Amazon rainforest in Central America that were completely hidden by jungle growth for centuries. We're literally redrawing the maps of ancient civilizations, revealing complex networks of cities, farms, and canals that we never knew existed. Alongside LiDAR, satellite imagery and drone photography have given us a bird's-eye view of archaeological landscapes. From high above, we can spot subtle patterns on the ground, faint outlines of buildings or ancient field systems that are invisible when you standing right there. By comparing images taken at different times of the year or under different light conditions, we can see things pop out. For example, after a light dusting of snow or during a dry spell. The different ways moisture is held in the soil can reveal the ghostly footprint of a Roman villa. These mapping techniques are creating a new golden age of discovery. We are finding more sites faster than ever before. But finding them is only the first step. The next, and perhaps most crucial, is preservation. This brings us to the fascinating world of modern restoration projects. In the past, restoration could be a bit heavy-handed. Think of early attempts at sites like Knossos in Crete, where concrete was used to recreate what they thought the palace looked like. While well-intentioned, these methods often caused long-term damage and were based more on imagination than evidence. Today, the philosophy is completely different. The motto is preserve, don't just rebuild. Modern restoration is a delicate science. It involves a team of experts, archaeologists, chemists, engineers, and art historians. They use advanced materials that are reversible, meaning they can be removed later without damaging the original structure. For example, Instead of using hard cement that can trap moisture and crack ancient stone, they might use special lime mortars that are breathable and flexible, just like the originals. When a fresco is fading, conservators don't just repaint it. They might use laser cleaning to gently remove centuries of grime, molecule by molecule, revealing the original, vibrant colors beneath. They analyze pigments to understand how they were made, and then develop solutions to stabilize them against further decay. Every decision is documented, and the goal is always to do as little as possible, but as much as is necessary, to ensure the site's survival. It's a slow, painstaking process that respects the authenticity of the past. But protecting a single wall or a single site isn't enough. Many of the world's most important historical locations face threats from urban development, pollution, climate change, and even tourism. This is where a global effort comes in, spearheaded by UNESCO. You've probably heard of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. But what does that designation actually mean? In 1972, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, adopted a convention to identify and protect places of outstanding universal value. These can be natural wonders, like the Grand Canyon, or cultural treasures, like the pyramids of Giza or the Great Wall of China. To get on the list, a site must meet at least one of 10 specific criteria. It might be a masterpiece of human creative genius, or bear unique testimony to a cultural tradition or a civilization which has disappeared. Once a site is designated, it's like joining an exclusive, protected club. The country it's in commits to protecting it, and it becomes eligible for international assistance, technical expertise, and funding from the World Heritage Fund. This designation is a powerful tool for conservation. It raises global awareness and can be a huge boost to tourism, which in turn can provide funds for preservation. But it's also a double-edged sword. That increased tourism, if not managed properly, can put a huge strain on the very site it's meant to celebrate. Think of the crowds at Machu Picchu or Venice. So, a big part of the UNESCO program is about sustainable management. It is about finding that delicate balance between sharing these wonders with the world and protecting them from being loved to death. It involves creating buffer zones, limiting visitor numbers, and educating the public on responsible tourism. The designation also provides a layer of legal protection. When a World Heritage Site is threatened, whether by war, natural disaster, or planned construction, UNESCO can put it on the list of World Heritage in danger. This acts as an international alarm bell, mobilizing support and putting pressure on governments to take action. It's a declaration that this piece of history doesn't just belong to one country. It belongs to all of humanity. So, from laser scanning hidden cities in the jungle to the global effort to protect our shared heritage, the story of archaeology is far from over. In fact, with these new tools and a growing global consciousness, we are entering its most exciting chapter yet. We are the custodians of the past, and it is our responsibility to ensure that its stories can be told for thousands of years to come. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through time. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. See you next time.